Chapter 755. I don't believe a bad guy like you. You're definitely a bad guy, the girl shouted. Seeing that the seal was gone, her mental energy surged out once again, forming a huge hammer that was dozens of zhong long. She aimed at Lin Shun and smashed it down. Bang! Lin Shin's mental energy at the middle stage of the Heaven Ascension realm swept out like a wind blade, easily shattering the huge hammer. Not bad. You're so young, yet you know such a superb mental energy technique. Tell me honestly, where did you come from? If you answer correctly, I'll give you a lollipop. Seeing Lin Chen's carefree attitude, the white-clothed girl was both shocked and frightened. This person was as terrifying as those people. Unless you let me go, I won't believe you. The girl was smart and quick-witted. She bit her cherry lips with her white teeth. Don't worry. If I wanted to do something to you, why would I need to undo the seal and save you from inside, right? Moreover, with your strength, even if I let you go, with the current chaotic situation in the 9 prefectures, do you think you'll be able to escape from those people's pursuit? Lin Shen was very good at coaxing girls. Seeing that the girl didn't fall for his trap, he was happy to slowly bicker. Sure enough, the girl calmed down after hearing his words. She sized up this strange, handsome brother, curling her lips. Maybe you're in cahoots with them. You're just here to win my trust. Smiling, Lin Shun said, Then do you want me to send you back? The girl was speechless. Seeing that she wasn't speaking, Lin Shun stepped forward to bandage her wound. Grabbing her snow-white arm, he applied some spiritual ointment on the wound. Don't touch me. The girl, who had resisted at first, saw Lin Chen's serious expression, and for some reason, the vigilance in her heart relaxed a little. The mental energy fluctuations that wanted to explode also calmed down. On the side, Bairuoyan had been staring at the girl, lost in thought. All right, your injury is stable now. You have 2 choices now. If you don't trust me, I can send you back right now. I'm a person with excellent moral character. I've always sent gifts to girls on behalf of others. Or you can tell me about your experience. Lin will protect you. Lin Shan sat in the middle of the desert, looking at the little girl. She stared blankly at Lin Shan. After a long while, she hugged her snow-white legs and slowly said, I don't have parents. I only have memories of when I was 12 years old. I woke up in the wilderness and wandered around Mingzhou. In the end, I was adopted by the Shun family. When the Shun family was destroyed, I was captured. When she answered this question, the girl felt a little lonely. Lin Shun was startled. He only had memories of after he was 12 years old. Could it be that he had amnesia? Little girl, can you practice this technique for me to see? Bairuoyan's smile was like a flower, beautiful beyond compare. She was like a pure and holy angel, infecting the little girl. She stared blankly for a moment before obediently nodding her head. Lin Shen looked at Bairuoyan in confusion. He could tell that the technique was called the 5-Spirit Smoke Palm. It was a top-notch green rank technique. This little girl was only at the Heaven Star border realm. In their current situation, how could they give this girl the time to learn this top-notch green rank technique? She would need at least 3 months to learn it. Bairuoyan replied to Lin Shan with a look that said, Wait patiently. The little girl took the jade slip, and her eyes unconsciously revealed a hint of disdain. She channeled her battle chi into the jade slip and quickly read the cultivation method. Next, a mysterious scene appeared. The little girl's body circulated with a dazzling light. These lights were all the colors of attribute light balls, and most of them were the essence of the technique. Lin Shen was dumbfounded. 15 minutes later, chi, bang, the aura of a thunderous explosion shot straight into the sky. A huge pit dozens of feet wide was blasted open in the desert. The spiritual energy was turbulent, and ripples appeared in the air. Seeing that the little girl's delicate hand was surrounded by 5-colored clouds like smoke, she obediently turned her head to look at the elder sister in the white dress. She smiled and asked, Elder sister, is this okay? Bairuoyan gently stroked her beautiful hair and smiled. You did very well. The little girl in white enjoyed it very much. This elder sister constantly gave her a sense of security, and she liked to stay by her side. She unconsciously trusted her. However, this scene shocked Lin Shun. What kind of monstrous talent was this? She only used 15 minutes to learn a top-notch green rank technique. Thinking back to when Lin Shun was learning the Divine Wilderness 9 Arts at the Heaven Song Branch Academy in the Wasteland region, he still needed half an hour to integrate the cultivation memories even with the technique essence's attribute points. Seeing the shock on Lin Shun's face, the little girl in white put her hands on her hips and raised her small nose. She proudly said, "It's just cultivating a green rank technique. What's there to be shocked about?" Lin Chen's mouth twitched. At this moment, he seemed to understand how others used to look at him. Mastering a green rank technique in 15 minutes. This was too ridiculous. It was rare to see Lin Chun so shocked. Bai Ruoyan smiled and transmitted her voice to Lin Shun. "Little brother Lin Shun, don't be too shocked. With her talent, it's normal for her to reach this level. If my guess is correct, this little girl should be born with the bloodline of a martial saint. It might even be the bloodline of a martial god. This kind of bloodline starts to awaken at the age of 12. Their mental strength and cultivation will increase explosively, and they will be self-taught in terms of battle techniques and cultivation techniques. There will be very few bottlenecks in their cultivation, and they will be as smooth as flowing water. This is one of the top talents that can look down on all the monstrous geniuses in the world. However, after awakening the bloodline, they will lose their previous memories. Even in the records of ancient times, there were only 2 cases of this kind of talent. Moreover, it was only the bloodline of a martial saint. The bloodline of a martial god is only a legend. Bai Ruoyan's guess caused Lin Chen's scalp to go numb. He couldn't help but complain to the system. "System, you're not a F*King fake, right? System, who would have thought that after picking up all kinds of attributes, cultivation techniques, talents, runes, and weapons, he would actually pick up a girl with the bloodline of a martial saint or even a martial god?" Lin Shun patted the little girl's head. The cultivation technique essence in her body flowed into his palm. Obtained 7,800 points of cultivation technique essence, 12,500 points of cultivation technique essence, 11,580 points of cultivation technique essence. Seeing that this little girl was actually able to derive the cultivation technique essence's attributes, Lin Shin smiled and said, "What's your name?" "I don't have a name." However, the elder sister of the Shun family named me Shunling Shuang, as if recalling the enemies who had once slaughtered the entire Shun family. Shunling Shuang bit her silver teeth and pursed her lips unwillingly. "Shunling Shuang, right? Girl, let me ask you, do you want to take revenge for the Shun family?" Shunling Shuang nodded heavily. "Of course I do." "Then become my disciple. From today onwards, as long as you follow me, Lin Shun, I guarantee that I'll be able to take revenge for you." Shunling Shuang hesitated. However, when she thought of how the Shun family had taken in her sisters, a hint of determination appeared on her delicate little face. She nodded heavily. Lin Chan extended his fist. Shunling Shuang raised her delicate little fist and bumped it against his. "That's what you said. I want to take revenge for my sisters." Chapter 756. Lin Shun gave Shunling Shuang 2 blue-rank combat skills in one go. He found that every time Shunling Shuang activated her bloodline power to learn a combat skill, her body would emit the light of combat skill essence. Every time she learned a new combat skill, Lin Shun could always obtain tens of thousands of combat skill essence from Shunling Shuang. Lin Shun couldn't help but sigh. With talent, one could really do whatever they wanted. He had to desperately collect a large number of combat skill essence to be able to quickly learn high-level combat skills. For Shunling Shuang, it only took a few hours. After resting in the desert for a while, Lin Shun activated the holy aura space jade slip that Jian Tianming left behind. The destination of this jade slip was the headquarters of the Fake God Alliance, Divine Land, Far East region. There was a hubbub of voices coming from all directions. The previously dilapidated Fake God family had been transformed into the headquarters of the so-called True God Alliance. Except for the spiritual state, Countless masters flocked to this place every day, trying their best to obtain the protection and favor of the true gods. The former Long family was now the headquarters of the True God Alliance. Inside the headquarters and hall, now that all the masters of the Firmament Tower and the heroes of the 9 states have gathered, we can destroy the Spiritual State Alliance in one go once the True God arrives. I wonder how Master Jian Tianming is doing. It seems that now is the time to enter the space channel. Why is there no movement at all? The masters who attacked the Spiritual State Alliance a few days ago gathered in the headquarters hall, including the 10 old monsters and Ancestor Long, who sneaked into the Firmament Tower that day. I didn't expect that he would attract so many demon monarchs around the demon eye. Even the clone of the true god couldn't drag him down with them. This kid is really strange. Longkin sat in a corner of the hall, shaking his head and sighing. Now that the True God Alliance headquarters had no leader, the masters, reclusive old monsters, and ancient giants who came here were all unwilling to obey each other. The True God Alliance headquarters, which was originally led by Jian Tianming, was now missing. Suddenly, a figure hurriedly barged in. Everyone, bad news. Enemy attack. Hearing this, many masters' faces turned dark. Now that countless top forces had gathered here, only the Spiritual State Alliance dared to attack this place. Could it be that they wanted to bring forward the final battle? How many enemies are there? Long can immediately question the Battle Emperor who had reported. There are only 2 people, a man and a woman. This answer caused the hall to fall into a short period of silence and shock. 2 people dared to barge into their true god headquarters? Who gave them the courage and guts? Shua, shua, shua. The various factions disappeared from the hall at lightning speed. Space shifted, stars changed, and they instantly arrived outside. At the top of the Long family's dragon pagoda, if one looked carefully, they would see 2 figures standing on top of the pagoda. When the external forces and experts in the headquarters below looked up, some were shocked, some were puzzled, and some recognized the 2 figures at the top of the tower. Isn't that kid Lin Shin from the Spiritual State? What audacity! He actually dared to barge into our headquarters. Could it be that he thinks he can fight against all of us by himself? He is looking down on the godly might. Ancestral Masters, please capture this kid. Many masters below stepped into the air and shouted at the representatives of the ancient families who flew out of the hall. On the top of the pagoda, Shun Ling Shuang, who was next to Lin Shun, trembled. She had never expected that Lin Shun would bring her directly into the headquarters of the enemy. She even suspected that this master of hers had gone mad. He even asked her to sing a song before they left. What is he trying to do? Shunling Shuang was a little scared as she hid behind Lin Shun. She raised her head and looked at his side profile. Lin Shun smiled in a carefree manner. Naturally, he would not be so stupid as to challenge everyone in the headquarters alone. Even if his powers had skyrocketed, if all the cultivators present were to attack him at the same time, they would be able to grind him to death. Look at you. What are you afraid of? Lin Shun glared at Shunling Shuang, who was hugging his leg behind him, as if he was exasperated at her failure to live up to his expectations. Today, I'm not targeting anyone here. I just want to say that those who seek refuge with the fake gods are all trash. I just want to kill all of you, or be killed by all of you. His voice was like a tidal wave that spread throughout the easternmost region. Countless masters were so angry that they laughed. T. You want to fight all of us alone? It seems that Lin Chen doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The easternmost region had gathered half of the forces of the Firmament Pagoda and even more than half of the forces of the 9 states. There were countless masters of the 7th and 8th level, and more than 109th level combat emperors. No matter how strong Lin Chun was, it was impossible for him to fight against such a lineup. What do you think? Longkin turned around and asked the 10 reclusive old monsters of the Firmament Pagoda. No matter how strong he is, it is impossible for him to fight against all of us alone, unless he is a 3rd Tribulation Combat Emperor or above, or a saint himself. The other old monsters shook their heads and laughed. This kid is still young and impetuous. Fine, let's attack together. This kid is full of tricks. Don't give him time. No one knew which old ancestor spoke, but hundreds of 8th-level combat emperors and above quickly rushed into the sky. Chi! Bang! Before the ancestors could launch their attacks at Lin Shun, terrifying, muffled, thunderous booms rumbled in the air, shattering the space barriers and causing them to tremble violently. There is thunder. We have set up a space barrier here. No thunder tribulation can break through it. Something is not right. Everyone be careful. Some of the old ancestors with sharp senses suddenly became alert. Lin Shun, who was standing at the top of the pagoda, smiled. It was exactly as he had predicted. When he activated his 5 thunders, those battle emperors had used their holy chi space jade slips to escape the calamity for the time being. Well, more than half of the energy of the 5-blow thunderstruck is left. Although it is not as long as last time, 200 thunderclouds are concentrated in one area. It is enough to make the fake god alliance suffer. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, countless thunderclouds seemed to have teleported from the southeast and arrived at the headquarters of the fake god alliance. Half of the combat emperors who rose into the sky had 5-colored thunderclouds floating above their heads. The thunder might that could swallow the stars and absorb the moon was surging like a tide of thunder. F***CK, it's this again. Longcan's eyes almost popped out. It was this move again. He had personally experienced the power of the 5-blow thunderstruck when he was in the Dragon Clan of the Barren State. He couldn't even escape. He could only take it head-on. He didn't expect that Lin Shun could use such a terrible trump card again. This kid is not human. The surging world, extinguishing thunder, might swept away everything in its path like a tide, covering the entire sky. Countless experts trembled in the vast and dazzling thunderclouds, as if they had been angered by the endless heavenly might and were about to give them a destructive thunder tribulation. Chapter 757. What's going on? Shouldn't the true God be protecting us? We have sincerely pledged our allegiance to the true God. Have we angered the heavenly might? There was no time for the powerhouses who were targeted to react. Lightning flashed, dazzling, and electric arcs were like dragons. Suddenly, a loud and clear male voice was heard from the top of the tower. It's so lonely to be invincible. It's so empty to be invincible. I'm alone at the top with the cold wind blowing. Who can understand my loneliness? F***CK. There should be a limit to how shameless you can be. You are not invincible. Just as this thought appeared in the minds of countless people, the thunder exploded. Bang, bang, bang. 200 5-colored thunderclouds split open the sky, and bolts of lightning struck down like wild dragons. Countless lightning bolts struck down, and the wind danced. The girl's crisp voice was heard. It's so lonely to be invincible. It's so empty to be invincible. Her voice was wrapped in battle chi, and it spread thousands of miles away. She who is hiding in the sky. Can you listen to me? My loneliness, endless loneliness. Countless people were dumbfounded. What kind of scene was that? Lin Shun and Shunling Shuang stood at the top of the pagoda. Countless streaks of lightning crisscrossed, flashing past their bodies. Yet they stood there unmoving, like unrivaled experts, standing at the peak of the pagoda. The lightning bolts were their accompaniment, and the explosions of the lightning bolts were like hammers and drums. It was as if every thunderstorm was the accompaniment to their singing. What kind of lightning is this? Why can't my mystical transformation steps avoid it? It's so painful. Damn, my battle chi fate, wheel, is going to be torn apart. How can this bastard use such a move? Countless powerhouses in the void activated their defensive combat skills, treasured weapons, elixirs, and many other trump cards. The sputtering lightning bolts were like colorful electric snakes that penetrated the headquarters of the fake God Alliance. The entire headquarters suffered a devastating blow. Wails and screams could be heard everywhere. Some Yuan venerables and heavenly dipper sovereigns who had not even reached the war emperor realm were affected. Being affected by the might of the lightning, it melted like snow. There was no chance of survival at all. Those top-notch battle emperors who were not targeted by the five-blow thunderstruck immediately retreated in all directions. They had no spare energy to attack Lin Shun. All they could do was to defend the headquarters with all their might. Otherwise, just these 200 thunderclouds would be enough to overturn the entire headquarters. Numerous spatial light pillars opened up, sealing off the spatial barrier. This allowed a large number of false god believers to be saved, and a deep fear was branded in their hearts. Within 1,000,000 miles of the Long family's territory, 5-colored thunderbolts shone brightly like shooting stars. If it weren't for the remaining combat emperors, this place would have been razed to the ground. The combat emperors who were defending were equally shocked. They stared at the experts who were screaming miserably in the sky. They didn't even have the chance to dodge. That Lin Shin actually has such an abnormal trump card. This is the first time I've seen an unavoidable attack. Motherfaster's cur, this Lin Shun is too good at hiding. I almost fell into his trap. It was almost impossible for those below the 9th layer combat emperor to survive 10 thunderbolts in the 5-blow thunderstruck. Finally, when the 200 thunderclouds dissipated, the fake god alliance had suffered countless casualties. 25 early 9th layer combat emperors were killed and 14 were seriously injured. 11 mid-9th layer combat emperors were seriously injured. 9 late 9th layer combat emperors were injured. More than 100 8th layer combat emperors were killed. It was more than tragic. Due to the fact that the 5-colored lightnings had moved across several large prefectures, the number of 5-colored lightnings this time was only half of the previous time. Even so, more than half of the fake god alliance's forces had been destroyed. The various forces that had previously looked down on Lin Shun were all dumbfounded. How could he injure so many experts in one move? This kind of method was truly invincible in the world. The Dragon Emperor soared in the sky and took away a large number of attribute light balls and more than 20 purple crystal treasure chests. Lin Shin's attributes finally began to soar to meet the requirements of the new version. Witnessing this scene, Shun Lingshuang's emotions surged and her heart trembled slightly. She was filled with pride. Lin Shun patted her shoulder and asked with a smile, "How is it? Does it feel good?" Shun Lingshuang nodded excitedly. "It feels good." After saying that, the attribute light of the cultivation technique essence in her body began to grow again. "Which one is your enemy? Go and beat him up now. Remember, don't be afraid. Just fight." In order to build Shun Lingshuang's confidence, Lin Shin pointed at all the experts present. Him, and that old man. Shun Lingshuang pointed her slender finger and immediately pointed at 3 seriously injured early 9th layer combat emperors. Lin Shun did not say anything and used the 7 ultimate pulling force to grab the air. 9. 4,000,000 dragon power points exploded and twisted the space, pulling the 3 seriously injured people over. He even let the Dragon Emperor release the Azure Dragon Realm to suppress their movements. "Beat him up," Lin Shin pointed. Shun Lingshuang mustered her courage and used the 5 spirits' smoke palm on the 3 of them. A grayish-white talisman descended from the sky. Lin Shun intentionally activated the delaying talisman to restrict the cultivation of the 3 people. In the end, he allowed Shun Lingshuang, who was only at the Heaven Dipper realm, to smash the top of their heads and kill them. "Sister Shunling, Sister Qing Xiao, I have finally avenged you." Shun Lingshuang's eyes were filled with tears as she muttered to herself. At the moment when the 3 of them were killed, Shun Lingshuang seemed to have been enlightened. Her thoughts were clear, and the bloodline in her body surged again. The light of her attributes increased again. At this time, Lin Shun said seriously, "From today onwards, you have to remember our motto: life and death are nothing. If you're not convinced, do it. If anyone dares to bully you, beat them up." Shun Lingshuang's green eyes flickered. She clenched her fist and muttered, "Life and death are nothing. If you're not convinced, do it. If anyone dares to bully me, I will beat them up." Byra Oyan in the snow-white jade slip was speechless. What did Brother Lin Shun teach her? During the Epiphany, Shun Lingshuang's bloodline power was like a sea of clouds, and new attribute lights were constantly emerging. Today's song, Invincible, is my gift to everyone. If anyone dares to die, just come at me. Lin Shun, ha ha. Lin Shun deliberately laughed wildly. He activated the super-dimensional transmission, took Shun Lingshuang away, and disappeared. Everyone had witnessed the fall of 3 of their top cultivators at the hands of a little girl, yet no one dared to step forward to stop Lin Shun. Next, the Alliance only needed to prevent the 6 fake gods from descending. The remaining enemies were nothing to worry about. Lin Shun's invincible image had been deeply imprinted in the hearts of everyone present at the headquarters today. His general trend had been cast and completely deterred the fake god alliance. This trend was very important. It was even more important than the attribute light balls that Lin Shun had now obtained. As long as Lin Shun didn't die in the future, no matter how the fake god alliance waged a war against the spiritual state alliance, they wouldn't have the confidence to do so. After all, they would always live in the shadow of Lin Shun. This was a fatal step. Chapter 758. After leaving the headquarters of the fake gods, Lin Shun looted all the remaining forces. Wherever he went, there were screams everywhere. 2 days later, Lin Shun went to the Firmament Tower. When he arrived at the entrance of the Firmament Tower, he stepped into the space tunnel and teleported Lin Shun into the Firmament Tower. After entering the Firmament Tower, Lin Shun rushed to the number 10 main city at full speed. Before Lin Shun arrived at the number 3 main city, an indifferent voice reverberated in the void. Lin Shun, little guy, you are here for me, right? Lin Shun paused and then cupped his fists. I am Lin Shun. I am here to pay my respects to the Tower Master. Since your dean woke up, I had a hunch that you would come and find me. Come in and have a chat. As soon as he finished speaking, the floating light drifted away. Lin Shun's figure was like light and shadow as he disappeared. When he looked around, he was already at the top of the mountain. On the cliff, the Tower Master stood with his hands behind his back. His eyes were filled with a mysterious light, as if he could see through the starry sky. In the face of such a strong person, small tricks and one-sided words were useless. Lin Shun said directly, Senior, now that the Jojo continent is in a life-and-death situation, the fake gods have come, changed history, and occupied the Jojo continent. If we don't take action, the Jojo continent will fall into the hands of the fake gods. I am Lin Shun. I am bold enough to ask the Tower Master to help the Jojo continent. I have guessed your purpose, but my duty is to protect the Firmament Tower. As long as the Firmament Tower does not fall, the hope and civilization of the human race will still exist. The Tower Master was expressionless. Lin Shun said coldly, No, if we fail in this battle, the civilization of the Jojo continent will lose its meaning. The Jojo continent will become a puppet continent where demons and monsters run rampant. Senior, you're guarding this place to suppress the demons. But if the Jojo continent is gone, what is the point of suppressing the demons? A human without humanity is not a human. A civilization without humans can't be called a civilization. The Pagoda Master's body trembled involuntarily. How could he not understand this logic? He had been a saint for 400,000 years and had read the history of the 9 prefectures for 10,000 years. There were many talented geniuses, but none of them could inherit the will of the ancient gods. He had been waiting for a human who could eradicate all the devils under the 9 great demon eyes. Could that person be Lin Shun? But at the very least, he didn't have that right now. However, in the history of the 9 prefectures, he was the most promising person to inherit the will of the ancient gods. If they missed him, perhaps 9 regions would never have a chance to rise again. If he fought with all his might, the holy demon king under the demon, I would definitely notice that the Firmament Tower had lost its protection. At that time, regardless of the outcome of the battle, the holy demon king under the demon's den would forcefully tear open the seal. Countless demons would rush out and wreak havoc in the land of the 9 states. If they didn't join the war, they could suppress the spiritual state for a while longer. Besides, the pseudo-gods could only occupy the spiritual state for now. The remaining 8 states still had some boundary-suppressing sacred steels, and they couldn't invade the entire 9 states in a short time. With their power, it was only a matter of time before they toppled the world-suppressing sacred steel that had destroyed the 8 great prefectures. If they fought, the demon race would bring chaos to the world. If they didn't fight, they would lose Lin Shun and the last hope of 9 regions. Whether it was the pseudo-gods occupying 9 regions or the demon race invading 9 regions, it would be a devastating disaster. However, from the perspective of the Tower Master, as long as he could suppress the demon eye and protect the Firmament Tower, even the pseudo-gods couldn't forcefully open the Firmament Tower. They wouldn't even dare to approach it. After all, the Firmament Tower was a godly artifact. Even the Tower Master couldn't control the Firmament Tower because it contained the will of the ancient gods. If it didn't join the war, the worst result would be that the godly land could still survive. I can join the war, but I have one condition. Suddenly, the Tower Master's sharp eyes turned to Lin Shun. Lin Shun, you must leave 9 regions. If you give up this war, I'm willing to defend 9 regions with my life. Lin Shun was shocked. The Pagoda Master had actually placed his last hope on Lin Shun. As long as Lin Shun didn't die, the hope of 9 regions wouldn't be extinguished. Even if Lin Shun was defeated by the pseudo-gods, if he could become a saint or even a saint king, there was still hope for 9 regions to revitalize. The Tower Master had seen his potential in the ancient god's mansion in the orange-level mystical realm. This might be the only choice. Impossible. I, Lin Shun, can't abandon my companions in the face of danger. The men of 9 regions have an indomitable spirit. There are things we can do and things we can't do. Lin Shun's deep shout was like the roar of a crouching dragon. His fighting spirit was like a peerless spear that was about to pierce through the clouds. Senior, please give me a straightforward answer. Other than asking me to run away, everything else is negotiable. The Tower Master shook his head. If I don't arrive at the spiritual state before the pseudo-gods arrive, that will be my answer. You can leave now. Although the Tower Master's expression didn't change, there was a hint of struggle between his brows. Lin Shun didn't expect that a figure of his level would be so hesitant at this critical moment. The Firmament Tower had been passed down through 5 generations of Tower Masters for countless years. It had experienced the changes of the Primordial Age, the Remote Antiquity Age, and the Antiquity Age. Countless efforts were gathered in the tower. The current Tower Master couldn't make a decision and bet everything on it. He needed time to think. I hope this isn't the last time I meet the Tower Master. Lin Shun cupped his hands and bade farewell. Then, he flashed into the void and left the pavilion. One day later, at the Heavenly Song Academy. Is that so? The Tower Master didn't come? With his wisdom, he might have already seen through the situation. Since he didn't give a direct answer, it's very likely that he won't help us. He only left a trace of hope so that the morale of our alliance won't collapse easily. It seems that we have to fight alone. The Dean sat calmly in the secret room as if he didn't care about the result. He turned to Lin Shun and said with a smile, "In fact, I agree with the Tower Master. If we can let you go, you will definitely be able to overthrow these criminals in the Saint Prison. Unfortunately, you are a smart kid who would rather break than bend." Lin Shun shrugged. This was completely different from the Primordial Age and the spiritual state. At that time, the Vice Dean and all the Academy members were there. They were still able to fight against the army of the Spirit of the Holy Fire, and the spiritual state wouldn't be destroyed. However, the arrival of the fake gods was different. Their first target was Lin Shun. Their second target was to occupy the spiritual state and extract the energy from the Earth core, which was equivalent to pushing the 9 states to the brink of destruction. If he left, the Dean and the Tower Master would be in grave danger. The Dean hadn't refined the energy of the Saint bloodline and couldn't move around easily. But now, he had perfected the Saint bloodline left by Lin Shun. His body glowed with holy light, and each strand of his hair seemed to contain mountains, rivers, and oceans. Lin Shun was shocked. This was the power of a saint. Even though the Dean tried to suppress it, he could still clearly feel it. A Saint could kill a battle emperor with a snap of his fingers. Besides, Lin Shun asked about the red satin that he had obtained from the Dean's inheritance. The Dean said that he had obtained it when he traveled to other continents. It seemed to record some ancient civilizations, and even he couldn't find many secrets about it. Only by collecting the complete red satin or meeting certain conditions could he uncover its secrets. With the enemy in front of him, Lin Shin didn't have time to analyze what was so special about it. He just threw it into his storage ring. As for Shan Lingshuang's bloodline and origin, even the Dean couldn't see through it. This made Lin Chun even more curious about this girl. However, the most important thing now was for Lin Chun to prepare all his trump cards. He found a secret room and began to cultivate in seclusion. He had turned the 9 states upside down, and all his plans were based on the result of this battle. Chapter 759. In the secret room, Lin Chun sat cross-legged. With a thought, he opened the system. Heavenly Path Possession System version 5.0 Host. Lin Chun Cultivation. Late Stage 7th Level Battle Emperor Realm. Intermediate Battle Aura Essence. 23. 1 billion points. Limit Power. 9 million Dragon Power. Talent Enhancement. 5 million. Intermediate Blood Energy. 26 billion points. Intermediate Spiritual Power. 45 million points. Peak of Intermediate Heavenly Ascension Realm. Intermediate Ability Essence. 125. 45 million points. Intermediate Rune Energy. 94. 5 million points. Heavenly Path Points. 54. 65 million points. Talent Points. 134. 8 million points. Intermediate Elemental Energy. Fire Element. 8. 21 million points. Earth Element. 7. 9 million points. Wood Element. 7. 33 million points. Metal Element. 8. 2 million points. Water Element. 7. 3 million points. Lightning Element. 7. 5 million points. Wind Element. 7. 99 million points. Light Element. 5. 2 million points. Dark Element. 5. 8 million points. Ability Status Column, open. Bloodline Status Column, open. Passive Talent Column, open. Ultimate Skill Column, open. Active Talents. Blue rank, Stealing Omen. Blue rank, Fatal Bloodthirst. Purple rank, Superdimensional Teleportation. Purple rank, Ultimate Moment. Purple rank, Ultimate Return. Purple rank 1 time, Super Counter. Purple rank 1 time, Sovereign's Descent. Cooldown time, 24 days. Orange rank 1 time, Godslayer. Quasi-orange rank 1 time, Absolute Life and Death. Orange rank 1 time, Sun God. Attribute Rune Column, open. Talent Combination Skill. Fatal Bloodthirst, Superdimensional Teleportation, Sovereign's Descent, Absolute Life and Death. Blank Attribute Points, 230,660 points, can be converted to any attribute points. Lin Chen's intermediate elemental attribute points exceeded the average of 8 million points. His strength was several times stronger than before. There were also more than 200,000 blank attributes. This was definitely one of the strongest trump cards. However, this was definitely not his goal. The reason why he stirred up chaos in Jiuzhou and robbed a large number of ancient forces was to upgrade his God Slayer talent. Host used the Orange Talent Enhancer to enhance target talent. Orange rank 1 time, God Slayer. Consumed 100,000 blank attribute points, 25 million Heavenly Path points, 85 million talent points. Confirmed to use the specified attribute points and the enhancer to enhance. Lin Shun took a deep breath. Everything depended on this one move. Confirm. Boom. The orange tier enhancer began to operate and absorb the God Slayer talent. A moment later, the enhancer appeared. Ding. Upgrade successful. Host receives orange rank 1 time use. Enhanced version of the God Slayer talent. Enemy detection range increased. Talent grade, intermediate orange. Before Lin Shan could rejoice in the system's display, The following series of instructions made him suck in a breath of cold air. Within the detection range of the innate hostility talent, 24,754 billion living beings have been detected to be hostile to the host, including the dragon race, the human race. Number of heavenly Dipper realm cultivators, 98. 74 million. Yuan venerates, 709 million. Combat emperors, 13580. Class 5 dire beasts. Class 7 dire beasts, 8,950. 2 trillion living beings. More than 2 trillion living beings were hostile to Lin Shun. Lin Shen's face was brimming with excitement. He had made the right bet. That's right. This time, Lin Shun had turned the land of the 9 states upside down, not just for attribute points. More importantly, it was to increase the number of enemies. He had bet everything on the enhanced version of the God Slayer talent. The stronger the enemy and the greater the number of enemies, the stronger the temporary boost to the user's power. However, the normal God Slayer talent had a limited range for detecting hostility. The enhanced version's effect was completely different. Lin Shen's preliminary deduction was that the enhanced version of the God Slayer talent's range for detecting hostility was dozens of times larger than the original. It completely covered the entire land of the 9 states. In other words, more than 2 trillion living beings in the entire land of the 9 states were hostile to Lin Shun. It was not easy to generate hostility. If every living being did not have the conviction to kill the other party, their attacks could not be judged as hostile. If there was only anger but no hostility, they were definitely not enemies. Those who were angry at Lin Shun might not dare to resist Lin Shun. However, those who were hostile would want to kill Lin Shun first. As long as they were in front of Lin Shun, they would rush up and fight Lin Shun to the death. With the system's judgment, it was almost impossible to fake hostility. Otherwise, Lin Shun would have used the entire Spiritual State Alliance as an enemy for activating the God Slayer talent. At this moment, the number of enemies was still increasing. Lin Shun had robbed almost all the forces that were not allies in the other 8 states, except for the Spiritual State. He now had 3/4 of the total combat force in the land of the 9 states. This number of enemies would be his most powerful asset to challenge the fake gods. I've done what I can. Now, it's time to see who can seize the heavenly secret. Lin Shun pushed open the door to the secret chamber and saw the dazzling light rising from the many sky islands of the Heavenly Song Academy. The vast and domineering dragon essence looked down on the world. Carrying the glory of the dragon clan, it illuminated the entire academy and even the sky of the spiritual state. Lin Shun shook his head and exclaimed, "The dragon clan even moved out the grand array of the Holy Dragon Pond." With the help of the Academy Principal and the Void White Dragon Patriarch, the Dragon Clan had moved their Holy Dragon Pond to the sky above the Heavenly Song Academy for the final battle. The other forces didn't stay idle either. With the help of the Academy Principal, many ancient forces brought out their ultimate trump cards. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Battle spirits soared into the sky and condensed into a sword altar with the sharpness of tens of thousands of swords hanging in the sky. This was the sword altar of the divine sword valley of the heavenly state, created by the mountain-splitting sword saint. Tens of thousands of meters long, the residual shadows of dragon breaths condensed into 10 dragon shapes in the form of clouds. The dragon's eyes were filled with thunderous intent, and they seemed to be able to shatter the sky and the earth when they roared. Entrenched above the spiritual state, this was the trump card of the Thunder Heavenly Emperor's lay family, the innumerable Thunder Mystic Mist Dragon Essence, which was made from the essence of the Holy Dragon. Towering red trees descended like a sea of trees. Their lush branches and leaves dyed the sky red, looking majestic and majestic as if a holy relic had descended. The spiritual state's Ling family's crimson flame golden tree had gathered the power of 100,000 years of red flames. It could be unleashed in an instant, triggering a world-destroying divine power. Lin Shun was amazed. These ultimate trump cards were items from the ancient times, left behind by the Saint Realm experts of the ancient families. They would only be activated when the families were facing a life-and-death crisis. In the past, the Battle Emperor Realm experts couldn't control or activate them on their own. Now, the Academy Principal, who was a saint, could do it. The creation of all creations had activated the ultimate foundation of many ancient families and moved them to Heavenly Song Academy. However, the power to control them was still in the hands of the descendants of the ancient families. After these ultimate trump cards were activated, they could only be controlled by their bloodline descendants. The Academy Principal was just a middleman. This was the final moment of life and death, and almost no one would hide them. This battle would divide the history of the 9 states into 2 parts. Class monitor, you're out of seclusion. Qin Xiaofeng walked over with a joyful expression. Due to his special background, there was still no one to take care of his parents. Therefore, he didn't choose to go to the sacred boundary, but stayed in the 9 states. Everyone is waiting for you in the main hall. Class monitor. Hearing Qin Xiaofeng's words, Lin Chen shook his head and laughed. He went to the main hall with him. Tonight, there were more than 10,000 banquets in the main hall, and countless familiar faces entered Lin Chen's eyes. Chapter 760. In a vast starry sky, the 6 twinkling stars went from dim to dazzling in just a few months. Boom! Monstrous, vicious qi instantly erupted from the 6 unique and different dimensions. Boundless battle, qi swept out like an enormous wave, and it crushed everything in its path and shook the surrounding stars to the point of exploding. Finally, I've finished absorbing the energy of the Earth core. I haven't even recovered 40% of my strength. This mortal world is indeed barren. Won't we have everything after we kill that brat and occupy the 9 states? Lin Chen brat, I'm going to skin you alive. In the void of the true God Palace in the Divine Land, the faces of the masters led by Long can change slightly before they were overjoyed. The true God's decree has arrived. Everyone move out. Our goal is to crush the spirit state and kill Lin Shun. Roar! Crush the spirit state and kill Lin Shun. Countless heavenly star realm, Yuan venerate realm, and even a large number of war emperors shouted in unison. Their voices tore through the sky. The masters in the sky were like ferocious tigers and lions as they rushed into the 15 spatial tunnels and headed toward the spirit state. The desert of the Divine Land was desolate. A black-robed figure's eyes were as sharp as swords. They pierced through time and space and stared at the sky island of the Heavenly Song Academy in the spirit state. At the same time, countless clouds and masters gathered from the 9 states. Kill that bastard Lin Chen. Damn it, we don't compete with the world. Is he going to rob our treasury just because we didn't join his team? Damn it. The treasures that the Dragon Cloud Desolate Hall accumulated for tens of thousands of years were destroyed by this brat. If I don't kill him, I'm not a human. This is intolerable. No matter how arrogant Lin Shan is, he can't withstand the encirclement of so many forces. Kill him. How dare he act so presumptuously just because he has some ability? Whether it's the true God or the Alliance, I just want to kill him. Angry shouts, and roars filled the entire 9 states. They could be found in every corner of the 9 provinces. Those sects, clans, and ancient forces that have been robbed by Lin Shun were filled with fighting spirit, fury, and murderous intent. Even the 3 rivers and 5 lakes would not be able to wash it away. As if they had a tacit understanding, they united and pointed at the spiritual state. It was very simple, because it was too king infuriating. Lin Chen's previous actions weren't stealing at all, but outright robbery. In front of countless powerhouses, he looted their treasure vaults again and again. Sometimes, he didn't even let go of their storage rings. Ever since Lin Shun looted the 8 states, all the forces started to gather at the spiritual state as fast as they could. Greetings, Sir Lin Shun. The Shangguan clan, the Bai clan of the Waste region, the Yinxia sect, the Wasteland branch, the Lung clan, the Han clan, the Luo mansion of the Divine Land, the 3 grandmasters of Danzhou, and the experts of the Dragon Tribe. Seeing those familiar faces, Lin Shen seemed to see his own reflections and memories. I didn't expect everyone to come this time, Lin Shan said with a smile. Everyone looked at each other. The conflicts and conflict between them seemed to have passed with a smile. They were united. As for everyone's size, they had mixed feelings and were incomparably incomparable. When they met Lin Shan, the former was just an unknown young man who had just shown his talent. Now, only 5 to 6 years had passed, and he was already standing at the top of the 9 provinces. He led all the top powerhouses with his own strength and fought against the legendary True God. The victors wrote history, and the losers didn't even have a corpse. This is the last banquet before the great battle. Let everyone relax and celebrate. It's not a good thing to be too tense before the great battle. Moreover, I have already sensed their presence. They will arrive tomorrow at 5:00 in the morning, the dean said with a smile. Shun Lianyun quietly accompanied him. Her delicate hand held Lin Shen's 5 fingers. Lin Shen looked at him quietly and elegantly. Shun Ling Shuang stood beside him. Lin Shen smiled casually. There are always a few times in life when you have to go all out and disregard life and death. That night, the spiritual state was brightly lit. Tens of billions of humans drank and chatted merrily. Even the headquarters of the academies were doing the same. Late at night, people used their battle auras to disperse the smell of alcohol. Then, they scattered and walked into the spatial tunnel to return to their original positions. At this moment, the spiritual state was like an impregnable fortress. The vast space barriers were like transparent curtains, setting up layers after layers of traps. Heavenly Song Academy, Giant Inferno Gate. Lin Shen stood proudly at the entrance of the Inferno mystical realm above the clouds. His deep eyes gazed into the distance. The Inferno mystical realm was the highest place in the spiritual state. Lin Shan would be the first person to face the enemies. Billions of miles away in the spiritual state, countless people of the spiritual state held their breaths and looked at the void above them with determination. Lin Shan glanced at the system's enhanced version, God Slayer talent. Within the detection range of the talent, hostility, 28,754 million creatures are hostile to the host, including the dragon race and the human race. Heavenly Dipper Realm, 99. 79 million. Yuan Venerables, 10. 09 million. Battle Emperors, 15440. Level 5 Dipper Beasts. Level 7 Dipper Beasts, 9,250. Lin Chen exhaled. His eyes glinted fiercely. Billions of enemies would become his final strength to fight against the fake god. The dean stepped into the air without any warning and stood beside Lin Shan with a serious expression. They are here. We can't let these guys descend into the spiritual state. We must stop them in outer space. As soon as he finished speaking, a loud noise sounded. Boom! In the southwest direction, the space barrier of the innumerable spirit sea was broken. Tens of thousands of figures stepped into the air like ancient giants. Tens of thousands of people rushed in from 4 different directions. Were they all battle emperors? They were the battle emperors of the fake god alliance. They were the first to arrive. In fact, except for the blood state, every state in the 9 states had a population of more than 1 trillion. These tens of thousands of battle emperors were the most powerful masters born in the history of the 9 states. Lin Shen, come up and accept your death. 10 late-stage level 9 old monsters roared, shaking the innumerable spirit sea. You destroyed the dragon race. Today, I will show you the power of the dragon race. The ancestors of the 7 dragon races shouted crazily. They transformed into huge dragons and roared into the sky. A bunch of traitors. You're not qualified for Mr. Lin Shan to deal with you personally. Roar. The void white dragon's beautiful and pristine white body appeared out of thin air. Its vigorous and powerful body was like a rain of clouds as it stood in front of the 7 tribes' colossal dragons. Following closely behind were the masters of the three dragon races. Tens of thousands of huge dragons appeared one after another. The dragons fought in a chaotic battle that shook the sky and the earth. Sea of Fire, Red Lotus Hell. The Red Lotus Fire Dragon race swayed their tails, and fire dragon breaths fell like a meteor shower, rolling up an endless sea of fire. Freezing Frost of the Nine States. A large number of ice calamity dragons roamed in the void and spat out tens of thousands of ice blades. Wind swept across the sky and froze tens of thousands of miles. Void Shift, Ultimate Essence Spirit. The Void White Dragon and the Life Dragon didn't want to be outdone. They used their own superpowers, and the battlefield was in chaos. Chapter 761. Guys, peace is at hand, and the history of the 9 states is on our shoulders. Let's fight. With the Thunder Dragon battle spear in his hand, the Thunder Emperor roared, and many battle emperors dashed toward the fake god alliance. Shun Lianyan led a large number of academy elders to the south of the fiery mountain and blocked many masters of the fake god alliance. This was a sneak attack team, and they were trying to take down the headquarters directly. Battle auras flashed chaotically as the battle emperors attacked. Streaks of rainbow-like battle auras pierced through the innumerable spirit sea, splitting the sea surface and creating a fault that was hundreds of meters deep. Sometimes, waves would rise and cover the fault on the sea surface. Numerous combat techniques were used, and many high-level secret spells and weapons were used by the two sides. Even with the help of many ancient families, it was still difficult to resist the attacks of the fake god alliance. They had too many experts on their side. In particular, the fake god alliance had tempted more than half of the forces in the Firmament Tower to join them. With the help of many ancient families in the 8 continents, the number of battle emperors was almost doubled. Just when the fake god alliance was about to collapse, hundreds of figures appeared in the sky from the Cloud Dragon Mountain range in the north and blocked more than 1,000 battle emperors. The leader was as beautiful as a fairy in a white dress that fluttered in the wind. Heavenly Saint Fire, Silence. The milky white, eternal Saint Fire burned and shot up into the sky like a pillar of fire. More than 300 battle emperors of the spiritual state seemed to be united as one and instantly unleashed a joint combat technique. Is this the power of the eternal Saint Fire? No. Retreat. Feeling numb in their scalps, the reclusive old monsters activated their movement techniques and retreated rapidly with the big team. Byra Oyan was leading more than 300 battle emperors in a joint battle. All of the battle emperors were under her control. Their attacks were coordinated as one. With only 300 battle emperors, they were able to stop over 1,000 battle emperors and even had the potential to counterattack. Bam! 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 Waves of energy surged on the solid space barrier. If the principal hadn't reinforced the space barrier, this battle would have spread to the Heavenly Song Academy. While the outer circle fought fiercely, the inner circle with the Heavenly Song Academy as the center stood still. All the ultimate forces were kept in the center of the inner circle. That was because this was a trump card that could be used against a semi-divinity realm cultivator, so it couldn't be used easily. The first rays of the morning sun shone on the land. Chaotic battles broke out in all corners of the spiritual state. Standing before the giant inferno gate, the two people looked even more grim. Lin Shun released his spirit energy and saw the battle situation tens of thousands of kilometers away. The disparity in combat power is too great. It seems that my clone will have to enter the outer battlefield in advance. Lin Shun thought to himself. Then, the system immediately popped up a screen. Creation of the green Pinnacle Sure Kill skill, 5-blow Thunderstruck, has succeeded. Consumed 100,000 Tian Gang Lightning and 1 million Heavenly Dao points. Number of uses available, 5. Successfully created the Cyan Sure Kill skill, Red Lotus Karmic Fire. Consumed 30,000 Hellfire Attribute and 300,000 Heavenly Dao points. Number of uses available, 3. After using the orange tier talent enhancer, Lin Shun was left with 130,000 blank attribute points. He used all of them to create his ultimate skill. The power of a sure kill skill would determine the life and death of a player at a critical moment in the outer circle. Shua, shua, shua. Lin Shen's 4 clones landed on the 4 battlefields, greatly boosting the morale of all the Academy's experts. Here they come. The Dean uttered 2 words. Lin Shen looked up, and purple golden light flashed in his pupils. Hundreds of thousands of meters high in the sky, outside the layers of air, 6 supreme presences shot down like meteors, as if they were the rulers of the world. Ha ha! Lin Shen, I'm going to chew your bones into pieces. Ha ha ha! Heavenly Song Academy, is this how you greet the gods? You only have one dying saint? You're looking down on us. The arrogant sneers spread into the Heavenly Song Academy like sound waves. Then, the 6 meteors shot toward the spiritual state at an extremely fast speed. Boom, boom, boom. The ground shook, and 3 light pillars shot up from the spiritual state. They were the last 3 world-suppressing saint steels. As soon as they sensed the aura of the false god, they activated on their own. Stop them outside the starry sky. The Dean stepped forward and dashed into the clouds. The Dean waved his hand, and the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower, standing between the heaven and the earth, responded to his call. It quickly shrank and turned into a small tower spinning in the Dean's palm. Was it a complete 8th-level divine weapon? With the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower in his hand, the Dean's power skyrocketed, and he dashed out of the clouds of the spiritual state. Enhanced God Slayer. Let me see how powerful you are. Lin Chun laughed domineeringly as he leaped into the air. Flapping the purple phoenix wings of the Dragon Emperor under his feet, he shot into the sky at an extremely fast speed. Within the detection range of the hostile talent, 29,005 billion creatures are hostile to the host. The number of Battle Emperor Realm Warriors, 15509. The number of Level 7 Beasts, 9,250. And the number of Saint Realm Warriors, 6. Receive the host command. Activating orange talent. Enhanced God Slayer. Bam! Crack! Crack! An orange gold talisman flashed above Lin Chen's head, and the crystal wall in the space exploded. Lin Chen's body unleashed endless waves of battle aura. 9 battle aura fate wheels formed in the blink of an eye, and he broke through to a higher level. At this moment, Lin Shun was like a new sun that illuminated the entire spiritual state. The orange-gold light flowed around his body, and the earth rumbled. Endless spiritual essence gathered around Lin Shun, shaking the entire 9 states. Everyone turned around and witnessed this scene with their own eyes. His aura soared into the sky like a blazing sun, dispersing the haze that had covered the 9 states for hundreds of thousands of years. Everyone froze. Both the members of the Fake God Alliance and the Spiritual State Alliance were stupefied. Lin Chen's strength skyrocketed. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 5,000 times, 10,000 times, 50,000 times, 100,000 times, 200,000 times. His battle aura fate wheels instantly broke through the tribulation, and each wisp of battle aura released brilliant saint power. His body was so majestic that it could open the heaven and earth and contain all the stars in the universe. His dragon energy broke through an unprecedented limit. 10 million dragon energy points, 90 million dragon energy points, and more than 100 million dragon energy points in an instant. His spirit reversed the heavens and illuminated the ancient times. The bridge of spirit turned into a vast ocean that contained all the creation and destruction of tens of thousands of years of history. Influenced by his spirit and fighting spirit, the people were filled with infinite strength and fighting spirit. Lin Chen's pure strength, battle aura cultivation, and spirit energy were like the Azura War god descending and dominating all the realms in half a breath. Beams of holy light rose from Lin Chen's head and the magnificent holy power poured down like radiance. The sky collapsed, and the holy aura of the 9 heavenly tribulations illuminated the land of the spirit state, protecting everyone like godly light. At this moment, Lin Qin stepped into the legendary saint realm. He stepped on the giant dragon, and his silver robe was flowing with surging orange-gold brilliance. The azure battle saber was like a bright moon, and it was at the same level as him. The giant dragon soared into the sky, and a loud shout resounded throughout the land of the 9 prefectures. Fake God, get out of the 9 states. Chapter 762. The endless hostility turned into Lin Qin's power to reverse life and death. This time, the enhanced Godslayer talent increased Lin Qin's overall combat strength by almost 300,000 times. The vast starry sky weaved a stretch of brilliant starlight, continuous and endless. The starry sand was like a sea. Above the atmosphere of the spiritual state, the metal tribulation was like a blade, the wood tribulation was like an ocean, the water tribulation was torrential, the fire tribulation was everywhere, the earth tribulation was like a fortress, the wind tribulation was like a storm, the thunder tribulation was like a dragon, the light tribulation was like a moon, and the dark tribulation covered the sky. The power of the 9 heavenly tribulations was like 9 layers of clouds, overturning the sky of the spiritual state. All the people of the spiritual state were shouting Lin Qin's name in excitement. Mr. Lin Qin is a righteous man. Let's fight together. We won't yield to the fake gods. Shouts filled with bloodlust and fighting spirits spread across the spiritual state. All the people of the spiritual state were motivated, whether they were at the heavenly Dipper realm, Yuan Venerate realm, or Battle Emperor realm. Retreat. Red Lotus Hellfire. Lin Qin's doppelganger was in 3 different locations, and he unleashed the Red Lotus Hellfire 3 times at the same time. The blazing Red Lotus turned into a sea of fire that covered the sky and locked onto every single combat emperor of the fake God Alliance. Another weird attack that can't be dodged. Quick, activate the array. Hundreds of battle emperors formed a group as if they had expected this. They activated their battle auras and formed 3 groups. Their battle auras condensed and formed 3 ancient battle aura mirrors, reflecting all the Red Lotus Hellfire. Even so, the army was still badly damaged. Dozens of battle emperors were killed. Lin Qin's 4 clones activated the ultimate moment. When they activated the 7 layers transformation, their auras soared to the peak of level 8. Then, they waved their arms. Go! Don't give them a chance to survive. Follow Mr. Lin Qin's footsteps. Kill! The meridian sword turned into the 7 stars and stirred up the wind and clouds. The dragon lightsaber spun like a bright moon and divided the sky and the earth into the morning sun. The 3 clones aggressively launched attacks from 3 different directions. The group of emperors, who had experienced the ultimate skill of Red Lotus Hellfire, was utterly defeated and were forced to retreat again and again. The 4th doppelganger occupied the highest position in the sky. Its purple golden eyes were shining brightly as it observed the entire battlefield. From time to time, he would draw his bow and shoot arrows. The light of the arrows pierced through the clouds and the sun. Every arrow played a crucial role in supporting the 3 major battlefields. After injuring 2 7th-level combat emperors with a single palm strike, Bai Ruoyan turned her attention to the 9-layer heavenly tribulation in the sky and muttered to herself, "Little brother Lin Qin, you must be safe. Firmament Tower, main city number 10. The tower master stared at the void above the spiritual state in astonishment and disbelief. A Saint Realm expert has appeared. This is actually Lin Qin. Above the 9 heavenly tribulations, a huge dragon circled in the void. The young man stood with a saber in his hand. His silver robe fluttered even though there was no wind. His divine might was unparalleled, and he looked down on the 9 continents. Boom! A ferocious meteor fell toward him. The bright moon's saber trembled slightly, and the saber energy flashed like snowflakes, easily cutting the meteor in half. Standing on the huge dragon, the young man's silver robe was as white as snow, and a jade belt was tied around his waist. His whole body was surging with crimson light, and his godly eyes pierced through the universe. The bright blue moon in his hand hummed softly as if he could cut the sun, the moon, and the sky with a slight wave of his hand. Seeing Lin Chun descending to the starry sky of the spiritual state like a god of war, the dean who controlled the heavenly spirit battle tower couldn't help but laugh loudly. Ha ha ha! God bless the spiritual state. He had thought that Lin Chun would have some hidden trump cards that could allow him to contend against a false god, but he had not expected that this little fellow would exceed everyone's expectations and directly raise his cultivation to the saint realm. Even compared to the current dean, Su Ping was not inferior. What? Even the experiences of the 6 false gods were completely dumbfounded. Is this young man the reincarnation of an ancient saint? If that's the case, then all the more reason to kill him here. Boom! Clang! 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 Tens of thousands of sword lights flashed across the sky. The pseudo-god of the Jian family pulled out his incomplete saint sword. A primordial ferocious aura rushed toward him as the saint energy turned into a rock. A pseudo-god transformed into a rock and flew into the sky. Above the starry sky, Lin Chen's gaze collided with the 6 pseudo-gods. Chi! Boom! Boom! 2 majestic saint auras collided with each other, stirring up the clouds in the starry sky and crushing the meteors in their path. This was the aura that only saints could have, and it represented a level that was above billions of creatures. Rumble. Lin Chen's body moved slightly as he used the silent step and stellar transposition. As he stepped on the void, the wind from his fist turned into the roars of billions of dragons. The 7 ultimate pulling force twisted the void and pulled the leading Han family false god over. In a single exchange, Lin Chun actually attacked without a second word. You're courting death. The pseudo-god of the Han family bared his teeth and struck back with his palm. Surging saint energy shone with a radiance that could illuminate the ages, leaving a trail of light wherever it passed. Bam! Their fists and palms collided, and a blurry nebula exploded. Both sides retreated 10 steps, and the pseudo-god of the Hun family was shocked. Billions of dragon power points. This kid has actually reached the body-refining saint realm. As soon as he finished speaking, a bloody wound appeared on the pseudo-god of the Hun family's arm, and saint blood flowed out. This was the 7 ultimate force, 5 forces in one. The final penetrating force had even penetrated his defense and injured him with just 1 punch. Lin Chun, who had more than 100 million dragon power points, could easily use the last 2 ultimate force techniques of the 7 ultimate force. This is the power of the saint realm. Lin Chun couldn't help but look intoxicated for a moment. This feeling of metamorphosis was too wonderful. It was as if he could shatter a meteor with just a thought. With more than 100 million dragon power points, he only needed a finger to pierce through the continental plates and push the stars. Even his spirit power had far surpassed the Heaven Ascension realm and reached the legendary Saint realm. Lin Chun looked around at the 6 pseudo-gods. At this moment, the 6 pseudo-gods were all wearing jade robes and embroidered belts. They were tall, handsome, and majestic. As their holy chi washed over them, they looked extraordinary. Their eyes were full of compassion and compassion for all living beings. This made Lin Chun want to vomit. They had come to invade the Jiuzhou continent and disguise themselves as gods. Damn it! You dare not show your true forms when you invade the Jiuzhou continent? Are you afraid that the world will see your true forms? Are you afraid to show your true faces? Lin Chun spat and sneered. Immature brat. You've only temporarily stepped into the saint realm. Die for me. The pseudo-god of the Mo family flew into a rage. His finger shot out like a gust of wind and condensed into a sharp sword that pierced toward Jiang Chun. The momentum was not strong, but wherever the finger light passed, It was reduced to a state of nirvana and destruction. Clang! Boom! The heavenly spirit battle pagoda emitted a beam of holy light and blocked the finger of the pseudo-god of the Jian family. The dean stood proudly beside Lin Shun. If he is not enough, I will be enough. The dean's holy power was unparalleled. The azure holy light rolled into a vast river. His eyes were as sharp as swords, and he showed no fear. Squeak! 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 Eerie screeches sounded like bones being gnawed. Tens of thousands of human faces and ghost faces surged like waves. Lin Shin smiled faintly and raised his finger. His spirit power turned into a horizontal line, and a deep abyss appeared in the starry sky, tearing apart all the spirit and ghost faces. One of the pseudo-gods retreated with a muffled cry. He was stunned. His spirit power is still at the Saint Realm. Chapter 763. The six false gods, and even the dean were shocked. The spiritual power of a Saint Realm expert was top-notch even in the sacred boundary. Saint Body, Saint Realm cultivation, and Saint Realm spiritual power. With the three of them as one, the current Lin Chun was simply invulnerable. Lin Chun glanced at the system. He had less than 50 million talent points and 94 million rune energy points left. Saint Realm cultivation was different from Battle Emperor Realm cultivation. Lin Chun used less than 10,000 rune energy points to activate the recharge rune at the Battle Emperor Realm, but at the Saint Realm, it would cost at least 1 million rune energy points. Needless to say, the penetration rune would cost at least twice as much as the recharge rune. Lin Chen's two offensive runes couldn't be used recklessly like when he was at the Battle Emperor Realm. They had to be used at the decisive moment. The characteristic rune's rune energy consumption depended on the host's cultivation and combat skills, unlike the talent runes that only consumed a set amount of rune energy. While the false gods were still in shock, Lin Chen quickly calmed down and used the silent step to dive down. Clang! Lin Chen swung his saber like a dragon's roar. Billions of dragon power exploded, and with the support of the water calamity body, the azure moon shone brightly. Mirror of attack. Slash! The sound wave wreaked havoc in the world, and a mirror-like snowflakes flashed past like the reflection of the moon in the water, slashing horizontally. Just a small trick. Break. Sacred Sea Manyan. The false god of the Mo family stepped on the waves and attacked with a majestic aura. Waves and wind blades rolled down like a silver waterfall from afar. Bang! The saber radiance and wind blades surged, scattering boundless silver radiance that was actually reflected back at the Mo clan's fake deity. As the radiance swept past, the fake deity's expression changed slightly. His body trembled slightly, and a strand of his hair was shaved off when he shifted to the void. He almost lost one of his arms, but he managed to dodge the attack by a hair. It can reflect my attack. Is this saber Saintly Chongqing's ultimate skill? When this boy uses this saber art, his pure strength is even greater than Li Chongqing's. Don't be afraid. Let's attack together. Act according to the original plan. The six fake gods instantly turned into several beams of light and shot toward the spiritual state. With ferocious glints flashing in his eyes, Lin Shin frantically mobilized his water calamity battle chi and swiftly waved his blue moon, unleashing 3 moves of moon speed. Due to his Sage Realm spiritual power, Lin Shin was able to mobilize his battle aura at an extremely fast speed. His reaction speed was also several times faster than the fake gods. When he struck out, the moonlight was so fast that it seemed to illuminate the 9 heavens and 10 earths in an instant. Limitless 100 divine hands. The Hun family pseudo-deity's might was awe-inspiring. He shattered the void with his palm and caught Lin Chen's moonlight saber beam out of thin air. However, the saber beam's remnant aura shattered and shot into his body, causing him to retreat continuously. The sword gleam was like snow, and faint frost dotted the starry sky. It was like a light wave that exploded in the horizon and shattered the moon of speed. Roar. The Kuan Peng false deity king was even more ferocious as he swallowed Lin Chen's moonlight saber chi. Leave this kid to the three of us. The boundary-suppressing sacred steel will be your responsibility. The Jin family, Hun family, and Wang family pseudo-deities shouted coldly at the same time. Lin Chun instantly blocked the three pseudo-deities with his own strength and fought in the vast starry sky. However, the situation was not optimistic. In just one exchange, Lin Chun was suppressed by the three pseudo-deities, and he was completely at a disadvantage. If not for the fact that the three pseudo-deities wanted to kill Lin Chun and get rid of him, he would not have been able to stop the three of them. 10,000 Elephant Battle Spirit. Suppress. Rumble. The Heavenly Spirit Battle Pagoda transformed into a giant pagoda tens of thousands of feet tall in the blink of an eye. It was as if a continental plate had slammed into the galaxy and suddenly knocked over the Long family pseudo-deity. The terrifying force made him stumble back with blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth. It was the Dean. Alone, the Dean controlled the Heavenly Spirit Battle Pagoda without fear of death and brazenly charged toward the other three pseudo-deities. Divine Word, Rain of Blood, tens of thousands of miles. The pseudo-deity of the Mo family spat out several blood-red characters that were protected by holy light. When they exploded, blood poured down like rain. Each drop of blood rain contained the power that could pierce through anything. Even the peak demon king in the Heavenly Spirit Pagoda might not be able to withstand it. When the tens of thousands of drops of blood rain hit one place, the power was enough to pierce through the stars. If it fell on the spiritual state, it would be a catastrophe that could destroy the world. 10,000 Elephant Creation Palm. The holy aura was azure and contained the mountains and rivers for thousands of miles. The Dean raised his hand and unleashed a holy light that illuminated the world. It actually purified most of the power of the blood rain and shattered the endless blood rain. A muffled groan came from the Dean's throat. He was injured from the backlash. You are a dying man. How naive you are to think that you can stop the three of us. The pseudo-deity of the Mo family sneered. As a saint-level fortune-teller among the six pseudo-deities, he had seen through the secrets of heaven and found that the Dean was covered in wounds. If not for the last bit of energy from the saint bloodline, the Dean would not be able to fight at all. Long Di Sha, this man's saint body is incomplete. You don't need to fight with battle aura. You can crush him with pure strength. Force him to fight at close range. That's his weakness. The pseudo-deity of the Mo family said coldly, and the Dean's expression changed. Roar. The dragon roar shattered the stars, and a huge golden dragon that was hundreds of thousands of meters long appeared out of thin air. This was the golden dragon crossing the path of the pseudo-deity of the Long family, which could turn the saint aura into a dragon. I'll stop him. The huge golden dragon swept its tail, and the overwhelming dragon energy forced the Dean to use the Heavenly Spirit Battle Pagoda to block the attack. Oh no, I didn't expect these pseudo-deities to be so powerful. Even a fortune-teller can predict my condition and weakness. The Dean cursed inwardly. He had thought that he could stop two pseudo-deities, but the pseudo-deity of the Long family had targeted his weakness and could only deal with one pseudo-deity. The remaining two pseudo-deities of the Mo family and the Lei family mobilized their saint power and broke through the protective shield of the spiritual state, dashing into the atmosphere. My people, fight to the death. Your true God has already descended. Offer up your lives to your heart's content, and you will receive God's favor. The moment the two pseudo-deities got close to the atmosphere of the spiritual state, their voice spread all over the spiritual state. When the saint power that could dominate all living beings vaguely appeared from the high altitude, the morale of all the masters of the fake God alliance soared. The great true God is here. True God, we're willing to sacrifice our lives for the miracle. The bloodthirsty and brutal shouts echoed in every corner of the spiritual state. The members of the Fake God Alliance, whether they were at the Heavenly Dipper Realm, Yuan Venerate Realm, or Battle Emperor Realm, all of them launched crazy attacks. F***CK, your true God. We don't need gods in the 9 states. Han Shuzi, the ancestral master of the Han family, yelled in fury. Waving the Alliance flag, he led the Han family to launch the final assault without any fear of death. Crack! The 2 battle emperors who were good at hiding were like dragons in the shadows. They were as transparent as thin pieces of paper. Without anyone noticing, they had already sneaked up behind Han Shuzi. Their daggers pierced in his chest like lightning, and their blades cut off his arms as fast as lightning. Ancestral Master! The people of the Han family were enraged, and their eyes were bloodshot. Blood gushed out of Han Shuzi's mouth, but a grin appeared on his old face. You've been fooled. He exerted all of his strength and unleashed his strongest punch. In an instant, he exploded the head of the sneak attacker. His teeth bit down on the blade, condensed from battle chi. With a spin of his body, he injured another War Emperor assassin. A life for a life. Han Shuzi was bathed in blood, and the bloody dagger was still stuck in his chest. Holding the flag with one hand, he waved his arm and yelled with the last of his strength. Boys of the Han family, let's go. Tell the lackeys of the fake gods that there are no cowards in the spiritual state. The yell seemed to have penetrated into everyone's hearts, igniting an eternal fighting spirit in them. It was the pride of the ancient families, the pride of the people of the 9 states. Chapter 764. The azure moon slashed down vertically, and the sword light pierced through the void. Clang! The sword and saber clashed as the Jin clan's false god swept his sword back, deflecting the saber chi that filled the sky. The Han clan's false god's palm was like a dragon, and strange waves of corrosive holy energy flowed through his palm as he struck Lin Chen's heart. Who would have thought that Lin Chen's 7 absolutes cutting force would sweep it away, devouring the starry sky? The Kuan Peng's giant mouth opened like a vast abyss. Lin Shun clenched his fist, and billions of draconic energy were ready to be unleashed as he punched the void. 7 absolutes, explosive force. Bang! 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 The fist wind was like a raging dragon, and it pierced through the Wang family's Kuan Peng body. The remaining draconic energy caused hundreds and thousands of explosions. Heart-searching hand. The claw wind was swift and fierce, and it attacked Lin Shun from behind like a ghost. If the attack landed, even the saint's heart would be dug out. A majestic and profound mental power condensed into a golden beam of light that shot out from Lin Chen's head. It cut through the air and stopped the Han family false god's heart-searching hand. That wasn't all. The sharp sword energy pierced towards Lin Chen's eyes. He took a few steps forward and slashed back with his saber. The aftershock of the clash between the sword and saber was like shooting stars. The light trembled chaotically, and the nearby meteors were reduced to dust. With the 3 false gods working together, Lin Shun was completely at a disadvantage. He could only barely defend himself. The strengthened God-Slayer talent was indeed very powerful. The nearly 300,000 times increase in strength allowed Lin Shun to raise all of his domains to the Saint Realm. However, in terms of cultivation, Lin Shun was equivalent to the Dean at the moment. He was between the 1st and 2nd Heaven True Saints. However, the 6 false gods were at the early 3rd Heaven True Saints. Even if they were severely injured and could only use 40% of their strength, their cultivation bases were still at the early 3rd Heaven True Saints. In addition, these old monsters were very experienced and had a lot of battle experience. Under their joint attacks, even if Lin Shun had a saint-level spiritual energy, billions of dragon power, and a rank 8 saber, he could only defend himself. You think you can contend against us with this kind of strength? Kid, you think too highly of yourself. Give up, Lin Shun. Even I cherish your talent. Why don't you join us? In the future, we will unite the 9 provinces together. You will definitely have the opportunity to grow to the same level as us. It won't be a problem for you to step into the peak of the Saint Realm. As long as you abandon the darkness and join the light, we can even help you condense a divine body. We can even find and obtain an 8th level divine artifact. Why? Why do you want to stay in this mortal world that is lacking in spiritual energy? Flying with us in the sea of stars is the path you really want to take. As the 3 fake gods fought, they used bewitching words to confuse Lin Shun, attempting to shake Lin Chen's fighting spirit. They knew that he had to be eliminated, so they tried to use this method to shake his performance in the battle. Who would have thought that Lin Shun would treat their words as bullshit, and his attacks would become even fiercer? Lin Shun used the saber technique Bright Moon Mirror in one hand to attack and defend, while using the 7 Extremes Force in the other to attack at close range. Bang! 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 The 4 fake gods turned into 4 streaks of starlight that shot out in all directions. Within several breaths, they had exchanged hundreds of blows. Whether it was intentional or not, the 4 fake gods' battle range was getting farther and farther away from the spiritual state and into the distant stars. The host activated the rune of recharge and penetration, consuming 8,100,000 rune energy points. Ultimate moment. Return to origin. Moon of speed. Suddenly, the 3 fake gods had a bad feeling. Lin Shun instantly leaped up and waited for the right opportunity to activate the ultimate moment. Then, he struck the fake god of the Jian family with the saber technique Moon of Speed, who was caught off guard. The fake god of the Jian family blocked the saber with his sword, but the broken saint's sword couldn't block the saber perfectly. The remaining saber energy penetrated his sword and entered his body, causing saint blood to spill out. How is this possible? Seeing that Lin Chen's saber technique was several times fiercer than before, the 3 fake gods were stunned. This kid's cultivation strength didn't increase at all, but the power of his saber technique increased by 3 levels. Moreover, it had a creepy penetration property. Lin Chen's body was surrounded by a dark green light, which overlapped with the red light. His silver robe was swirling with endless light, and his fierce and domineering expression made him look like a god who had descended to the mortal world. His depleted battle aura has recovered to its peak state. The fake god of the Hun family's pupils contracted. This wasn't the Battle Emperor realm. Only a level 8 Saint pill could instantly replenish the depleted battle aura of a Saint Realm warrior. This kid didn't look like a level 8 Saint pill at all. It's horrifying. After entering the Saint Realm, it cost 7,800,000 talent points to use the ultimate return talent once. Lin Shun was still a bit scared. He had pretended to be weak so that he could find a chance to injure one of the fake gods. Besides, he knew that the fake god's target was him, and they would fight to the death. He pretended to be weak so that he could lure the fake gods away from the sky of the spiritual state. Lin Shen glanced at the distant sun behind him and let out a heavy sigh. Now, it was time to decide the winner. Although Han Shuzi had died, countless people of the spiritual state were filled with fighting spirit. Again and again, they fought bloody battles. The horrifying death match was like an unprecedented meat grinder. Both sides fought with their lives on the line, dyeing the spiritual state with blood. Billions of miles of mountains and rivers were forged with blood. This was an unprecedented, chaotic battle. The earth trembled and the sky whined. On the day of the bloody rain, the sky cracked. Outer Circle, Longhu Mountain. The master of the Lungyu family was severely wounded and couldn't move. However, he still yelled as if his soul had burned out. Kill those sons of asterisk cheese. These people aren't qualified to be people of the 9 states. All members of the Lung family, listen up. Don't step back. Anyone who steps back is a disgrace to the Lung family. The master of the Lungyu family was bleeding, and white bones were exposed in his chest, thighs, and shoulders. He had lost his sight in his right eye, but he still got up and moved forward. Fight! Fight! Move forward! Move forward! It was as if no one had stopped moving forward. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. The difference in numbers was almost double. Even with Lin Chen's 4 clones, it was still difficult to balance out the difference in strength. Despair began to spread in everyone's hearts. On the other side of Longhu Mountain, Elder Yuan, who had protected Lin Chen when he first entered the academy, struck out dozens of palms with his Yuan Venerate cultivation and forced back a large number of Heaven Star border realms. However, the Battle Emperors and Yuan Venerates continued to attack with monstrous auras. They were like tigers and wolves that could swallow mountains and rivers. Rip! A sword light came from the sky and slashed in Elder Yuan's direction. He was caught off guard and barely dodged it. However, his right arm and right leg were slashed diagonally. Elder Yuan. The students who were fighting bloody battles couldn't help but exclaim. However, the surging auras seemed to be endless, especially the auras of the Battle Emperors. These Heaven Star border realms and a small number of Yuan Venerates felt a suffocating pressure. They were defeated one by one in the battle. Elder Yuan, on the other hand, revealed a relieved smile for the first time. He lay on the edge of a cliff and stared hopefully at the endless starry sky with his aged eyes. There seemed to be a few stars that were constantly flickering and colliding back and forth, messing up the galaxy, sun, and moon. Little fellow, you really didn't disappoint the ancestors of the Academy. This old man will stop here. To be able to witness you reach this point, even if I die, it will be worth it. Chapter 765. The spiritual state was in chaos, and the smell of blood filled the sky. Such a large-scale war had only happened in the ancient times. The scope of the war was unprecedented. From battle emperors to earth realm cultivators, everyone was involved in this meat grinder. The battle between the dragon tribes was especially fierce, and the two sides were about to activate the Sacred Dragon Pond array. In terms of the resources of the Sacred Dragon Pond, the 7 tribes were superior to the other 3 tribes. However, the 7 tribes had to guard against the fake gods, and at least 2 of the Sacred Dragon Ponds couldn't be used on the battlefield. Lin Shun had drained the energy from 2 of the Sacred Dragon Ponds, so the 7 tribes also had 3 Sacred Dragon Pond arrays. The war spread to the heavenly state, and a main battlefield was between the 2 states. The battle was fierce, and the mountains and rivers within hundreds of millions of kilometers were covered in blood and bones. The overall combat strength difference between the Spiritual State Alliance and the Fake God Alliance was more than double, and the Spiritual State Alliance was at an overwhelming disadvantage. If the Alliance wasn't united and the alchemists of the Danzhou State didn't plan and make potions day and night before the war, the Fake God Alliance wouldn't have the time to adjust to the situation and would be in a state of disunity. Even so, the absolute difference in strength was still overwhelming the Spiritual State Alliance. Lin Chen's clones witnessed the fierce battle. Each of Lin Chen's clones tried their best to stall more than 50 top battle emperors, and all of them were at least 8th level battle emperors. The battle was fierce, and it was hard to tell who would win. 1 against 50. The cooperation of masters was much more than 1+1. If Lin Shun didn't have more than 6 million points of intermediate metal elemental energy, his clones would have died several times. His gold calamity battle body's hardness was infinitely close to the peak of the 7th stage, and his silent step was extremely fast when he was in the ultimate moment. Only when Lin Shen's 4 clones acted did they barely manage to stabilize the situation. He was waiting for an opportunity. It wasn't the best time yet. He still had 5 uses of his 5-blow Thunderstruck Sure Kill skill. Either he didn't use it, or he had to use it to affect the overall situation. The overall situation included the battle between Lin Shun and the Fake Gods. The 2 Fake Gods of the Mo family and the Lei family tore apart Lin Chen's 9-level heavenly tribulations. But before they arrived at the spiritual state, they encountered an unexpected counterattack. Boom, 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 clang. The dark mist condensed like clouds and rain. It was mixed with the movement of thousands of lightning bolts, and turned into tidal draconic chi. As it shot out wave after wave, it swallowed the stars and absorbed the moon. There were also giant trees swaying with golden flames that poured out golden flames, condensing into endless flames that shot into the sky. The profound light and sword chi were like a waterfall of swords that filled the sky. They hung upside down in the void and condensed into numerous sword waves that shattered the sky. At the same time, Ling Tian's giant energy sword slashed horizontally at the false god's holy light fists, blocking the false god's attacks again and again. Damn it, I didn't expect the spiritual state to have so many trump cards aside from the world-suppressing Saint Steel. The false god of the MO family said calmly, "Don't worry, these things are limited. As long as we exhaust their energy, we can push them to the world-suppressing sacred steel." TSK. Suddenly, the boundless blue-gold luminous sacred hammer came crashing down. This was an attack from the world-suppressing sacred steel. Be careful! Just as the Lei family's pseudo-mythical being's voice faded, another energy finger jumped like a shooting star, tearing through the universe and decorating the space between the two of them. Bam! The horrifying attacks set off waves of energy, which were blocked by the Saint Aura barrier of the world-suppressing sacred steel and the branches and leaves of the red flame tree, protecting the spiritual state from harm. Buzz, buzz, buzz. With sparkling waves and Saint Aura, the only three remaining world-suppressing sacred steels of the spiritual state unleashed their Saint Aura and attacked at the same time from tens of thousands of kilometers away. The golden fist mark suppressed the world, and the dark green scythe divided the heaven and earth. The sharp scythe cut through the sky and slashed down. The two false gods' expressions changed slightly since they had to take this attack seriously, even though they were powerful. The last world-suppressing sacred steel, however, faintly glowed with a rainbow-colored, holy, and fairy-like figure. The Saint Realm cultivators had unparalleled fortune and could leave the continent to explore the vast starry sky. They were also able to resist the many dangers and energy turbulences in the starry sky. They were no longer limited to some dimensions and could even go to the legendary sacred boundary. Bright attack. The bright blue saber energy shot out, dazzling saber energy that looked like two bright mirrors, swiftly slashing at the false god of the Jian family. Clang! When the saber and the sword collided, tens of thousands of shards of light exploded in the starry sky. The bright blue moon lost its spiritual essence, but the false god of the Jian family's saint's sword was also damaged. The longer the battle went on, the more Lin Qin realized why Bright Moon Mirror had become Li Chongqing's ultimate technique. Although this saber technique was only a high-grade purple-tier saber technique, it had extremely comprehensive abilities. It could attack and defend as one, and it was flawless. After forcing the Jian family's faux deity back with a single slash, Lin Qin's psyche was like a tsunami as it slammed into the massive Kunpeng's true body. At the moment it was pushed back, Lin Qin's body was bathed in blood. His silent step increased his speed as he punched the Hun family's faux deity across space. 7 Ultimate Explosive Force. Billions of dragon-shaped energies pierced through the void and created a true dragon shadow that struck the Star River. With a grim expression, the false god of the Hun family activated his Saint Aura heavenly shield. But in the next moment, his expression changed drastically. Activated Charge and Penetration Rune, consuming 8 million rune energy points. Boom! Bam! Bam! Lin Qin's 7 Ultimate Explosive Force was suddenly unleashed. Its power was increased by 5 times, and it also had a 25% penetrative power. It directly broke through the defense of the Hun family false god and caused hundreds and thousands of dragon force explosions on his sacred body. Swoosh! 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 4 attribute light balls rolled out from the false god of the Hun family. Lin Qin took the opportunity to grab them. They were all non-growth attribute light balls, but they were of extremely high quality. obtained 46 million rune energy points, 32. 3 million cultivation technique essence points, 38 million talent points, 50,000 blank attribute points. The attribute light balls dropped by the false god were of extremely high quality. Even he sucked in a breath of cold air. Blue lights surged, and Lin Chen's injuries were partially healed. Consumed 20,000 talent points. Fatal Bloodlust has been successfully activated. Gained 30% healing effect from actual damage. Successfully triggered innate skill combination. Host can now use innate skill combination. Seeing this, he was wild with joy. It's finally here. Innate skill combination. His sovereign's descent was in cooldown. Lin Shun had been waiting for a long time for the activation of the innate skill combination. Blood trickled down the corner of the false god of the Hun family's mouth, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. How come this kid's attack suddenly increased by 2 levels? Universe 1000 Sword. Rip. The sword energy that was as thin as gossamer shot up into the sky like a silkworm spitting out silk or a poisonous spider weaving a web. It instantly spread out and enveloped the space within tens of thousands of kilometers with Lin Shun as the center. Lin Chen's heart pounded. If this sword technique was used on the spiritual state, it would be enough to cut the Heavenly Song Academy into countless pieces. Swoosh! Lin Chen's figure flashed and disappeared like a flash of light. The gossamer sword energy that blotted out the sky missed him. He dodged my universe sword technique? Impossible. His movement technique hasn't reached this level yet. What kind of trick is this? The false god of the Hun family was stunned. His universe sword technique could seal the void. If he used his movement technique without permission, he would be cut into pieces of tofu by the sword energy. Host has activated innate skill combination, super dimensional teleportation, and teleported to the designated target. 5 forces in 1. The leg's shadow slashed horizontally like a guillotine. The false god of the Hun family's pupils trembled in fear. This kid not only dodged the universe sword technique, but also approached him silently. Chapter 766. Kuan Peng accommodates the moon. At the critical moment, a beam of yellow sacred light shot out and tore apart the space around Lin Shun, causing his body to come to a halt. The Hun family's false god instantly retreated, dodging Lin Chen's ultimate attack that was a combination of 5 forces. Damn it, these old foxes are really hard to deal with. Lin Chen's heart sank. It was his first time encountering such an opponent who could even avoid the sneak attack of superdimensional teleportation. However, from now on, it's time to decide the winner. Activating talent combination, Sovereign's Descent. Accumulating energy, 0. Lin Chen's eyes were sharp. This time, he wanted to surpass his previous stacking of the 4 talents and use an unprecedented attack to decide the winner. For this, he wanted to use the large number of War Emperors below to increase the energy of the Sovereign's Descent talent. The Saint Realm was definitely not the War Emperor realm. The energy required to double the power in the Saint Realm was tens of thousands of times more difficult than in the War Emperor realm. On the other side, the 3 false gods were floating in the air. They stared at Lin Shun with fear in their eyes. Lin Shun, who had used the enhanced version of the ultimate moment, God Slayer, made them feel a fatal threat. Let's go all out. If we don't pay a price, we won't be able to take this kid down. Forget it. This fake body can be created again in the future. Rip. A tearing sound was heard. Finally, the 3 false gods tore off their disguises. They no longer looked like they cared about the world and pitted the world. Instead, they showed their original bodies. The Hun family false god, Hunin, was a short and deformed old man. He was holding a walking stick and had a mouth full of yellow teeth. Centipede-like scars covered the left side of his face. The Jin family false god, Jin Chuanyi, was an old man with a broken holy sword. He was only 5 feet tall, with only 1 eye and a hideous sword scar. The Wang family false god, Wang Yiquang, was a sinister middle-aged man with Kuan Peng wings. Only half of his face was left, and the left side of his face was skeletal. It was extremely strange. This was their true bodies. The three of them were all the most ferocious criminals in the Sacred Boundary prison. They were not as handsome and majestic as they were described in the fabricated history. On the contrary, they were the complete opposite. Each and every one of them was filled with the appearance of a scoundrel, causing one to shudder in fear. What's wrong? Aren't you going to continue pretending to be gods? Lin Chun sneered in ridicule, but his heart became increasingly heavy. From now on, it was time for both sides to go all out. You glibrat, I'm sure the Saint Realm expert beside you has told you about our weaknesses. The three of them were calm and composed. The Hun family's fake divine soul, Ian, laughed with a smile, as if he could control the wind and clouds. Previously, the three of them had held back because they were heavily injured and needed to preserve a portion of their strength to protect their injured bodies. Otherwise, even someone as strong as Lin Chun would not have been able to fight with the three of them for so long. However, once they released all their strength, it meant that Lin Chun would have to face three experts at the early stage of the third heaven true, Saint Realm, and above. Fortunately, the attribute light balls dropped by them are extremely high, so I can still use them in battle. Other than the slow rune, I can still use the other runes and talents according to the situation. However, this is my only chance. Lin Chun had heard from the Dean that the serious injuries of a Saint Realm expert were not trivial. Even if they suppressed their cultivation to suppress their injuries, it did not mean that their injuries were healed. If they released their strength in a heavily injured state, their bodies would be extremely weak. In other words, although they were at the early stage of the third heaven true Saint Realm, their resistance and vitality were far inferior to a complete third heaven true Saint Realm expert. This was Lin Chen's chance. He had to walk on the edge of a knife. One wrong step, and he would lose. I know my own weaknesses better than you do. Today, I will let you, a mortal, know how big the world is. Hun Een laughed coldly. Come out, my heavenly Een odd crystal. Boom. Bang. The terrifying and fiendish aura was like the cold yellow springs in hell. The energy rippled and exploded, shattering the nearby stars into powder in an instant. Then, they turned into faint cold ice frost that floated in the air. Lin Chun retreated repeatedly with horror in his eyes. Through the King Eye twins, he saw a dark blue crystal that flickered like starlight in Han Yin's body. When the energy of this dark blue crystal was combined with his saint energy, it was like adding wings to a tiger. It was like a breath of air that could erode everything in the world and extinguish all life. What is this? A saint artifact? No, it's more like some kind of powerful energy crystal. It seems like a saint artifact is more threatening. Lin Chen's pupils constricted. He used a silent step and retreated rapidly. Hun Een raised his hand and laughed sinisterly. Heavenly Een, freezing sky. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The gloomy and cold aura that was as cold as hell was like a torch dragon sweeping across the sky. Wherever it passed, it condensed into a river of gloomy and instantly blocked all of Lin Chen's escape routes. Lin Chen's left leg was covered with a layer of gloomy and cold aura. Lin Chun activated the Fire Calamity Combat Body with all his might and burst out with raging flames that could burn mountains and boil seas. The coldness went straight to the bone. It can even erode my 9th Calamity Battle Chi. What a terrifying power. Lin Chen's pupils trembled slightly. These old guys didn't make a move, but once they made a move, they were full of killing intent. They were very clear about their weaknesses. When they revealed their true strength, they even used their trump cards. This is an odd crystal. It's the strongest energy crystal that can only be born in the sacred boundary or high-level space planes. Combined with saint power, it's even more powerful. Brat from the mortal world, now you know the difference between us. If you resist us, you will definitely die. Hun Een cackled madly, shocking Lin Chun. There was actually such a powerful treasure in the sacred boundary. The power of this odd crystal was enough to double the strength of a saint. The Wang family's fake god, Wang Yiquang, suddenly stepped on the void and flapped his Kuan Peng wings, flying over like lightning. His Kuan Peng wings were many times stronger than Lin Chen's purple phoenix wings. As he tore through the void and moved forward, his fist smashed down like a heavenly hammer, causing the wind and clouds to surge. Mirror of protection. Lin Chen quickly waved Azure Bright Moon, and his saber technique was like a curtain. He immediately entered a defensive state and reflected half of the opponent's attack power. Wang Yiquang had a refined saint body and the bloodline of the immemorial Kuan Peng. He was the only one among the three who dared to fight Lin Chen head-on. Lin Chen clashed with Wang Yiquang and Jian Chuanye with a saber in his hand. With Wang Yiquang rampaging in front, Jian Chuanye's sneak attack from behind, and with the protection of the Soul Odd Crystal, Lin Chen was in a desperate situation. Damn it! Are you the only ones with trump cards? I have one too. Lin Chen fought until his blood boiled. He allowed the cold aura of the heavenly Odd Crystal to corrode his body as he used his mind to activate the system. Activate the absolute life and death talent. Chi. Activating talent combination, absolute life and death talent. An orange brilliance shot into the sky and crossed the galaxy. Lin Chen's surging green brilliance and red divine brilliance had an additional orange light lingering around him. His strong and majestic blood energy and battle chi cultivation burned together. Ka! The ice crystals condensed by the cold aura began to fall off Lin Chen's body. The edge of his pupils turned orange. Lin Chen's life began to count down. Chapter 767. Lin Chen activated the absolute life and death talent to choose a target, and it was Hunin. Gu what? Hunin let a strange, owl-like cry from his throat. Clang! The azure moon in Lin Chen's hand glowed even brighter. It was like a bright moon hanging in the starry sky. Due to the host activating the enhanced version of the God Slayer talent, the duration of the absolute life and death talent has been extended. Lin Chen activated the absolute life and death with his divine body. Although the increase in power was still calculated based on the original War Emperor realm cultivation, the duration had increased. Lin Chen's short hair burned with orange flames. With a saber in hand, his aura was domineering. His eyes were as sharp as the stars and the moon. On his silver robe, the ninth calamity battle aura surged like a sunset. Lin Chen was like a god descending to the mortal world. He started to break my heavenly odd crystal. How is this possible? Hun was shocked. Lin Chen held the saber with both hands. In an instant, it was as if he was possessed by a saber saint. His saber technique exploded. Attack mirror, attack moon. Guard mirror, speed moon. Swoosh, swoosh, bang, bang. The saber aura that swallowed the heavens and the earth was like a bright moon shuttling back and forth. It reflected the universe and bombarded Wang Yiquang and Jian Chuanye. The three of them were shocked. Where did this kid get the energy to spare? F*CKU fake god. Come on, don't stop. Those who invade the 9 states will be killed. With his vitality burning, Lin Chen was overflowing with madness. His hair was swaying like flames. His saber technique was like a wild saber in a chaotic world. One saber after another. Each saber was more violent than the last. His dragon power was still growing. His mental strength was growing rapidly. His battle aura cultivation was rising to a higher level. The powerful 9th Calamity battle body was emitting a brilliant holy aura. With over 100 million dragon power points, every strike of his was imbued with a domineering aura. Lin Chen turned into a dark light and slashed vertically at Jian Chuanye's head. He wanted to split heaven and earth. Speed Moon, activated charging and penetration rune, consumed 3 million points of rune energy. Sword of Eternity. Jian Chuanye drew his sword. The tip of the sword shot out a rainbow. The sword seemed to be moving very slowly. However, he was able to shatter the space crystal wall into a vacuum with a single strike. Bang! The saber and sword collided, causing a massive wave to rise up. The saber energy was like a raging tide that wreaked havoc. As the sword light scattered, a trace of blood leaked out from the corner of Jian Chuanya's mouth. 2 attribute light balls dropped beside him. Damn, this brat's attacks are too strange. I can't predict when he will use this strange, penetrating secret skill. Lin Shan did not follow up with another attack. Instead, he punched the other side of the void. As the Kuan Peng's wings trembled, the fist and the palm collided, and the 7 ultimate strength was performed continuously. Great Yin Ice Prison. Han Yin attacked once more, and he struck out with a palm strike that enveloped Lin Shan's vast icy hell of baleful qi. The horror of the odd crystal once again invaded Lin Shan's body. He gritted his teeth and held on, his spiritual power erupting like a tidal wave. Annihilation. Boom! An azure spiritual light pillar crossed the starry sky, and the destructive spiritual annihilation energy shattered more than half of the great Yin Ice prison. Han Yin's expression changed slightly, and he cried out, "Spiritual Attack's Secret Manual?" Together with the great Yin Odd Crystal, his great ice prison was enough to trap a first-level saint, but it was broken by Lin Shan so easily. Before the battle began, Lin Shan had already learned the annihilation technique to 100% proficiency. With his saint spiritual power, it was not an exaggeration to say that its power could destroy heaven and earth. Roar! The Kuan Peng roared, and Wang Yiquang also began to activate his bloodline transformation, Berserk state. Jian Chuanya attacked aggressively, but Lin Shan was fearless and faced him head-on, holding the saber in his right hand. He used the saber technique Bright Moon Mirror, and the bright mirror hung high. His left hand used 7 ultimate strength, and his dragon force was fierce and domineering, looking down on the world. The saint's spiritual power clashed crazily, and Lin Shan fought the 3 fake gods with all his might. The 3 of them had to be wary of Lin Shan's penetration secret technique that could increase the power of his attacks. And they also had to pay attention to when they would unleash that terrifying spiritual attack. As a result, their strength was greatly restricted in the battle. If the 3 third heaven saint experts in perfect condition attacked Lin Shan together, he might not even be able to last 300 rounds. However, these 3 fake gods had unleashed their full strength and were heavily injured, so they had to be more careful. The life and death talent burned his life force in exchange for strength, making him stronger as he fought. Lin Shan nourished himself with battle, and every attribute light ball they dropped was very precious. It constantly became his battle capital, allowing him to use the ultimate return talent again and again. His battle aura was never depleted at all. His aura was vast and majestic, making him as firm as a rock in the midst of the fake gods' attacks. It was precisely because they felt Lin Shan's ultimate return talent that the 3 fake gods' expressions became more and more serious. This kid's saint power was endless and could be replenished instantly every time. It was too strange. If I were to obtain such a mysterious secret manual, in that instant, the 3 fake gods' eyes flashed with killing intent. They had seen too many things from Lin Shan that could threaten them. If they didn't kill this kid, they would never be able to live in peace. Still not enough, still not enough. My sun god talent can only last for 60 seconds. This isn't the best time yet. I have to persevere, persevere. Stars flashed chaotically, and after a few thousand rounds, Lin Shan's entire body was bathed in blood. His blade was like a dragon, and the dragon's might pierced through the heavens. His palms were clenched into fists, and his legs were whipped out. Lin Shan gritted his teeth as he was forced back time and time again. The azure moon in his hand trembled slightly, and the damaged spirituality continued to expand. Under the attacks of the 3 fake gods, even the enhanced God Slayer, life and death, and ultimate moment were no match for them. Lin Shan was being suppressed by them. His life force was depleting at an alarming rate, and an orange glow started to emerge from Lin Chen's body. His flesh and blood were rupturing, and his battle aura was surging. The world seemed to be completely still, and Lin Chen was only focused on the battle in front of him. His mind was being destroyed, his flesh was being torn apart, and his battle aura was being shattered. It seemed that every time he attacked, his opponent would come up with a more cunning and terrifying attack. It was as if endless despair was shrouding him. Powerlessness and exhaustion engulfed Lin Chen's entire body. On the other side, blood rained down on Longhu Mountain Range. The Spiritual State Alliance would definitely collapse after a long battle due to the absolute difference in combat power. Lying quietly on the cliff, Elder Yuan was on the verge of death, and he wanted to close his eyes. Whoosh! 4 Disha Realm students rushed to the edge of the cliff, helped Elder Yuan up, and stuffed a life-saving elixir into his mouth. Elder Yuan, the 4 of us won't let anything happen to you. The 4 of them shouted resolutely. Elder Yuan's eyes flickered. These kids are still fighting with all their might. How can an old man like me die so easily? Hold on a little longer. Elder Yuan watched as the students retreated at the edge of the mountain range. A large number of powerful Yuan venerates were attacking, and they were about to collapse. Despite his arms and legs being covered in blood, Elder Yuan shouted at the top of his lungs, "Roar, students! Only we, the descendants who are still alive, can decide the meaning of the deaths of the 100 sage ancestors. Only we can decide whether the path of the unyielding sages who defended the 9 states still has value. Roar, powerhouses! Onward, young geniuses! Rumble!" Elder Yuan's roar as he burned his life force enlightened countless students as if they had comprehended the great Tao. That's right, only they could decide whether the deaths of the 100 sage ancestors still had meaning. If they lost here, everything from the beginning would be meaningless. The unfulfilled wishes of the sages and sages would be shouldered by them at this moment. They would decide, and they would control. The living would inherit the will of the dead and continue to move forward. This was the only hope for history to continue. Advance, advance, for the 9 states, for the greater good, for the 100 sage ancestors, and for the sages who had died on this path. They had to win. If they didn't win now, then the sacrifice of the ancestors would be meaningless. Chapter 768. Countless students felt their blood boiling, and even their battle chi seemed to be ignited by a raging fire. The medicinal efficacy that they hadn't been able to refine in time surged into their bodies, and a large number of powerhouses broke through on the spot. With tears in their eyes, they angrily rushed toward the allied forces of the fake god alliance without fear of death. The 4 prodigy students standing beside Elder Yuan, who were at the 9th level of the Earth Realm, broke through to the Heaven Dipper Realm on the spot. "You old fart. You should have died when you should have died." An injured Yuan venerate discovered Elder Yuan, and seeing that he had affected the battle situation, he rushed over crazily. The 4 of them looked at each other and used all their battle chi to block the injured Yuan venerate rushing over. This was the first time they had reached the Heaven Dipper Realm and flew in the air. The 4 of them used all their strength to grab onto the Yuan venerate and lock him in place. "What do you want to do?" The Yuan venerate panicked, but he found that he couldn't shake off the 4 youths. The 4 of them looked at each other, and the battle chi in their bodies surged as they laughed in relief. "We will be brothers in our next lives." Rumble. The battle chi exploded, and a 100-foot storm bloomed like a cloud, wreaking havoc in the sky. 4 young Heaven Dipper Realm students actually self-destructed while holding a seriously injured Yuan venerate, perishing together with the enemy. These 4 young students were already at the Heaven Dipper Realm before the age of 20. They were true prodigies with great prospects in the future, but they didn't even bat an eyelid when they sacrificed their lives here. Even though there were millions of Yuan venerates on the enemy's side, this was just an insignificant number. They still sacrificed their lives without hesitation. An inch of mountains and rivers, an inch of blood, a loyal heart shines in the annals of history. Who cares if the world is chaotic and the rain of arrows is like a curtain? Who cares if the mountains and rivers are broken and heroes rise and fall? A crisp and beautiful female voice echoed across the spirit state. The sweet and light voice contained a soul-stirring and domineering aura. It shook people's hearts and shattered all despair. A beautiful woman in a colorful jade dress, with ribbons fluttering like clouds, stood in the sky above the third boundary, suppressing sacred steel of the spirit state, and sang loudly. Partners, let's go. Sisters, let's sing. Let the dark clouds cover the sky. Let the wind dance in the firmament. Don't be afraid of that magnificent army with thousands of men and horses. Don't be alarmed by that 1,000 zhang tall wave, breaking through an army of 1,000, shattering the giant waves. Since ancient times, who has not died? Leave a loyal heart to shine in the annals of history. Dispelling the clouds and gazing at the dawn, stepping on the blood and singing a legend. The song was so shocking that it seemed to have triggered the pride hidden in the deepest part of the hearts of the people of the spiritual state. The aura of breaking through the bottleneck of cultivation strength lingered in the sky. Layers of colorful holy clouds rose into the void, bathing countless residents of the spiritual state in them. At this moment, more than 1 million people were making breakthroughs in their cultivation. Their injuries were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The 100 sages have shown their might. We haven't lost yet. Let's charge over and fight these bastards to the death. The morale of the spiritual state alliance soared, and their cheers soared into the sky. Byron, who was standing on the giant door of the holy fireland, stared at the rainbow fairy. She shook her head and exclaimed, "What a powerful rhythm technique. It's really a saint's technique." The momentum of the spiritual state alliance instantly soared to the highest point. Now was the time. Lin Chen's 4 clones had a tacit understanding of each other. They changed the direction of their attacks and dashed toward the combat emperors at the top of the battlefield. System, activate the ultimate skill, 5 thunders. Activating the ultimate green-level ultimate skill, 5 thunders. With the host clones as the center, all enemies within a radius of 100,000 kilometers will be targeted and attacked. Lin Chen's clones activated the ultimate skill, 5 thunders, 4 times in a row. Boom! Bang! The horrifying 5-colored thundercloud instantly shrouded the combat emperors at the 4 different battlefields. All of them were 8th level combat emperors and above, the top combat strength of the Fake God Alliance. Byron, who had a tacit understanding of each other, opened her hands swiftly and opened the giant door of the holy fireland abruptly. Swoosh! 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 In the 4 battlefields, the bodies of the spiritual state alliance's experts were filled with dazzling white flames. They turned into a stream of light and were forcefully pulled into the giant door of the holy fireland. All of them were teleported into the holy fireland. This was what Lin Chun and Bai Ruoyan had agreed on earlier. It was not an impromptu decision. When he activated the ultimate skill, Bai Ruoyan pulled all the combat emperors into the holy fireland. Almost no ordinary person could get close to the battle between the top combat emperors, not even the low-level combat emperors. As long as the top combat emperors retreated quickly, they would not be afraid of accidentally hurting their allies. Lin Chun wanted to detonate the top combat strength of his opponents in one breath. The 5-colored thundercloud with a destructive aura lingered above the heads of the 8th level combat emperors. Their pupils shrunk as they finally realized the severity of the situation. However, they did not have the chance to escape. Whoosh! Bang! 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 The earth-shattering 5-colored thundercloud descended like a lightning dragon and struck all the top combat emperors. There were a total of 400 people above 8th level combat emperors in the 4 battlefields. There were more than 100 9th level combat emperors. These were the top powerhouses of 3/4 of the forces in 9 states and half of the forces in the Firmament Tower. This was definitely a force that could influence the battle between the middle and the top. Now, all of them were hit by Lin Chen's ultimate skill, the 5-blow thunderstruck. The terrifying thunder shook the area thousands of miles away. When it reached the periphery where the Yuan Venerables and Heavenly Strength realms were fighting, the powerhouses of the fake god Alliance gasped. This momentum was too terrifying. It was the powerful thunder that had happened at the headquarters that day. In a war, morale was the key. It could even decide the direction of the battle. The rhythmic sorcery of the boundary-suppressing sacred monument had awakened everyone's strongest fighting spirit and healed the injuries of countless people in the spiritual state. On the other hand, the people of the Fake God Alliance had just witnessed the 5-blow thunderstruck, and their morale had plummeted. Because of this, the Spiritual State Alliance instantly gained the upper hand and counterattacked. Obtained 400,000 Rune Energy Points, 500,000 Heavenly Path Points, 400 Blank Attribute Points, 300,000 Talent Points. A large number of Attribute Light Balls kept dropping. However, because of the Godslayer talent, only a small number of non-growth Attribute Light Balls were dropped. However, 400 top-notch Combat Emperors, no matter how small the number was still a huge number. This wave of 5-blow thunderstruck not only increased Lin Chen's attribute points, but also played a key role in another of his trump cards. Talent combination, Sovereign's Descent Talent Energy Points. 500,000 points, 890,000 points, 1.09 million points, 2 million points, 4.9 million points, 6 million points, 10.5 million points, 23 million points. The accumulated energy of Sovereign's Descent had entered an unprecedented state of frenzy. Damn it! How many times can this kid use such weird attacks? Damn boundary-suppressing sacred monument, break it! You're just some incomplete wills and techniques left behind by low-level Saint Realm experts. I'm not afraid of your true bodies, so why would I be afraid of you? The two fake gods of the Mo family and the Lei family were exasperated after witnessing this scene. They had planned to use this group of top combat emperors to break into the inner circle and destroy one of the boundary-suppressing sacred monuments. But they didn't expect that Lin Shun would wipe them out. Hurry up. After a few more rounds, the things left by the ancient saints will disappear. The two fake gods sped up their attacks. The Heavenly Song Academy was about to be destroyed after taking turns to destroy the boundary-suppressing sacred monuments. They were about to run out of energy. Suddenly, a warm ray of sunlight shone on the land of the spiritual state. Today's sun was exceptionally bright. Chapter 769. This kid can fight the three of them at the same time. Even the three old guys who released their true forms couldn't take him down. The false god of the dragon family, who was fighting against the Dean, rolled his huge dragon eyes from time to time. When he looked at the other side of the starry sky, he could not hide the shock in his eyes. How old was this kid? They had spent millions of years to reach this level. This kid was so young. If he had the support of the top forces in the sacred boundary, he would be an overlord in all the worlds. Ha ha! Longdi Shah, you must be worried. With this kid in the 9 states, he will be your eternal nightmare. Although the Dean's life was hanging by a thread, his aura in the battle was as magnificent as the sun, and his laughter was vigorous. Lin Shen's performance was beyond his expectations. Humph! Look behind you. Let's see if you can still laugh. The fake god of the Long family swung his dragon tail and swept the starry sky. Each of his dragon scales was covered with flowing dragon breath. The Dean forced himself to operate the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower and was pushed back more than 1,000 miles. Looking behind him, the Dean's face turned grim again. The two fake gods of the Mo family and the Lei family also showed their true forms and tried to break the defense circle of the spiritual state regardless of their injuries. The last trump card of the ancient families was about to disappear. The light of the 3 world-suppressing Saint Steels also dimmed as they approached their limits. Oh no, these guys don't even bother to disguise themselves. They're going to break into the spiritual state. Gritting his teeth, the dean was about to use the last of his saint bloodline energy when a domineering presence rose up like a dragon. The holy light was so magnificent that it looked like a bridge of clouds. Standing on the bridge of clouds was a man in a green robe. With a sword in his hand, he attacked the two fake gods with a dazzling sword light. It's him. The dean was overjoyed. The newcomer was the tower master of the firmament tower. You are just a second-level saint. Get out of my way. The fake god of the MO family waved the heavenly secret umbrella in his hand. Tens of thousands of holy lights gushed out like clouds and formed a big, colorful net. The sharp sword energy was instantly sucked into the net and turned into nothingness. The tower master looked grim. Since he had stepped out, he wouldn't back down. In fact, he had been hesitating all this time. It was only when he saw Lin Shun take on 3 opponents by himself that he felt a glimmer of hope and made a strong move. Not long after he left the Firmament Tower, the demons in the demon eye of the Firmament Tower began to riot. Now, the remaining half of the Combat Emperor's forces in the Firmament Tower, as well as all the forces in the Firmament Tower, were trying to stop the demons from rioting. Everything was on Lin Shun. Their disadvantage still hadn't changed. The Tower Master alone was unable to stop the 2 false gods who had revealed their true forms. After activating the 5-blow Thunderstruck 4 times at the same time, the energy accumulation of the Sovereign's Descent talent skyrocketed. This was Lin Shin's second trump card. Boom! Lin Shun was repelled once again. His entire body was shrouded in red mist and orange light. He gritted his teeth and charged forward again. If an ordinary expert were to fight against these Saint Realm beings who had lived for 1,000,000 years, their mind would have long since collapsed, and they would have resigned themselves to their fate. Lin Shun was able to resist to this extent by himself. Just based on his mental fortitude, he had already surpassed countless people. This was definitely the most difficult battle Lin Shun had ever experienced. Every time he attacked the opponent's weakness, he would be met with an even more ferocious attack. It was as if he was a lone wolf facing the siege of 3 lions. Every time Lin Shun felt that he could not hold on any longer, he would suddenly remember the evil deeds left behind by these false gods in the land of the 9 prefectures. Those lives that were trampled on by these false gods. Those people who were treated like animals. Lin Shun felt as if his throat was being burned by molten lava. Lin Shun, could not swallow this anger. F***, you false gods. Lin Shun shouted angrily as he waved his saber and his fist shook the galaxy. At this moment, his mental fortitude became even more perfect. This saber move, Mirror Moon God, was earth-shattering. Rip! The saber light split the void and cut Wang Yiquang's Kuan Peng wings in half. Roar! Wang Yiquang roared in pain. His Kuan Peng bloodline was known for its speed. With his wings cut off, his combat power was severely reduced. Lin Shun took the opportunity to grab the 4 attribute light balls that he dropped. He stepped into the air and flashed. At the same time, he swept out a wave of mental energy to push Hanin back. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. At this moment, the accumulated energy of Sovereign's Descent in the system had reached 200 million points. It seems that the 5th 5-blow Thunderstruck plan to charge into the enemy's interior has also succeeded. Lin Shun was ecstatic. This was an unprecedented amount. It was an amount that could only be accumulated by killing a large number of war emperors. However, it might not be enough for a Sage Stage Cultivator. There was a world of difference between increasing the attack power of a Sage Stage Cultivator and increasing the attack power of a War Emperor Stage Cultivator. Lin Shun saw that his vitality that was about to be exhausted had transformed into a holy body due to the enhancement of the strengthened version of the God Slayer talent. His body that could only withstand the activation of absolute life and death for 13 minutes had forcefully lasted for more than 2 hours. This kid is getting stronger and stronger as he fights. What a terrifying secret technique to fight at the cost of burning his vitality. Unfortunately, he's about to die. The three of us still have the foundation to contend with him. No matter how strong we are, there's nothing we can do. Hunin and Jianchuan Ye's eyes were gloomy as they locked onto Lin Chen's position. They were not in a hurry to make a move. The current Lin Chen was digging his own grave. The absolute life and death talent burned one's vitality to fight. The longer one lasted, the stronger the power obtained. However, if one could not kill the designated target, the talent would not be removed. Now, the power obtained from the absolute life and death talent was as high as 60,000 times. With the addition of the God Slayer talent, it was 350,000 times. Ha 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 ha. Suddenly, Lin Chun laughed wildly. Laugh. Let's see how you'll laugh when you die later. Hunin was so angry that he laughed instead. He continued to condense holy power and instilled it into his heavenly odd crystal. How could Lin Chen not laugh? Up until now, everything was going according to his plan. Lin Chen's winning rate was now 30%. Fake gods were indeed very powerful. This 30% was obtained by risking his life. However, Lin Chen still had a trump card. In the previous battle, he did not use the heavenly invisibility rune even once. It's time. The part that Sovereign's Descent and Absolute Life and Death are not enough. I'll use it to make up for it. Lin Chen's mouth was bleeding, but he grinned. He stared at the blazing sun behind the three fake gods. Although it was still extremely far away, he could already feel the fatal high temperature. The sun. He had been fighting with the three of them and constantly moving in order to get as close to the sun as possible. However, this distance was already his limit. His absolute life and death talent meant that he did not have much time left. Absolute life and death was already at the end, and Sovereign's Descent was ready. Host has activated the Sun God talent, beginning to condense the power of the sun and transform it into Sun God power. The moment the system screen popped up, the three fake gods and all the saints present were shocked. Boom! An explosive sound reverberated throughout the heavens and earth. It was as if the heavens and earth had been blasted apart. A scorching hot aura was released from Lin Chen's body. Chapter 770. Lin Chen's body ignited with boundless sun god fire. Every pore on his body exuded the power of the sun god. His hair fluttered like sun god fire. His bones seemed to contain boundless sun god fire. The surging sun god fire merged with his countless meridians and fused with his flesh and blood. It was flawless and flawless. The sun god fire was like countless giant dragons roaring in Lin Chen's body, telling of the power of the sun and its magnificence. Are you kidding me? Where did this brat get such powerful strength? Not good. Something is wrong with him. Abandon the battle. The Lei family's fake god had just stopped the pagoda master, and the Mo family's fake god was about to charge into the spiritual state. The power that erupted from Lin Chen's body was extremely terrifying. Even they felt a fatal threat. If Hun Yin and the other two didn't care, they would be the ones to die when Lin Chen turned around. The pagoda master and the dean were also dumbfounded. Lin Chen had completely overturned their understanding. They thought that Lin Chen, who had temporarily stepped into the saint realm with the cultivation of the 7th level combat emperor, was already at a heaven-defying level. They didn't expect him to reach a higher level. Heavenly shift. The heavenly secret umbrella suddenly opened. 3 spatial light pillars crossed the starry sky. The Mo family's fake god pulled Long Di Sha and the Lei family's fake god into the spatial light pillars and disappeared. When they reappeared, they had crossed a long distance and arrived beside Hun Yin and the others. As soon as they arrived, Lin Chen's sun god talent was officially activated. Boom, boom, boom. The sun god force entered his body. He was like a new sun rising slowly. The space trembled, the universe was distorted, and the laws of nature were shattered. Many blazing suns rose from Lin Chen's head and turn into thousands of sun wheels. The condensed sun god force transformed into 9 spiraling heavenly rivers that intertwined and flowed endlessly. The raging heat waves set the several hundred stars in the vicinity ablaze. Bathed in the endless yang fire, Lin Shen's magnificent divine might shrouded his head like a supreme divine crown. Lin Shen stepped out of the sea of fire. When his divine eyes opened, the boundless starry sky was instantly illuminated by the blazing divine light of the sun. The terrifying temperature illuminated the 9 heavens and 10 earths, like 2 blazing suns in the starry sky. Above Lin Shen's head was an endless blazing sun. His blood-soaked silver robe was embellished with the blazing flames of the sun. His robe billowed with the flames of hell. Lin Shen's myriad Tao sun will spun behind him, and he stepped on an endless sea of fire. It was as if billions of fire dragons had submitted to him. The fire of the sun burned the starry sky and illuminated the galaxy, making him look like a sun god who created the universe. His divine eyes scanned through all of the fake gods, and all of them shuddered in fear as cold sweat trickled down their backs. This kind of power was too terrifying. He was like the sun god of the primordial era, overlooking all living beings. The dean stared at Lin Shen's godlike back and couldn't help but burst into tears as he cheered loudly. God bless the spirit state. Just how strong is this kid? The Tower Master's heart trembled. Even a Saint King wouldn't be able to transform from a 7th-level combat emperor to such a horrifying level. Oh, they're all gathered together? Good timing, ha. Lin Shen's heart skipped a beat as he let out a wild laugh. His laughter shook the universe, and he looked down at the galaxy, causing the sea of fire to surge. Endless divine power shook the entire galaxy. He was worried that the duration of his sun god talent was too short, and he was afraid that his opponents would break through the spirit state. He didn't expect them to gather together. Don't be fooled by his aura. He is almost at the peak of 3rd-level combat emperor. Let's attack together. His vitality is still slipping away. If we can hold on, we will win. Hunin and the fake gods of the Mo family said in unison. While they were talking, Lin Shen wielded the azure moon as fast as lightning, and a domineering and powerful saber energy slashed out like a long rainbow. The majestic moonlight split open a horrifying space crack and formed a deep abyss. The surging divine power of the sun and the water calamity battle aura combined perfectly, and with the support of billions of violent and ferocious dragon energy, it was earth-shattering. This move, Mirror Moon Imperial God, was even more powerful than its creator, Saber Saintly Changsheng. Kuan Wuji, Dragon Devouring. Wang Yi opened his bloody mouth and shot out a beam of light that could devour heaven and earth, creating the image of 10,000 beasts devouring a dragon. Netherworld, Reincarnation Destruction. The sword energy swept across the sky, and the night sword Chuan slashed through the galaxy, splitting the chilling and cold netherworld presence. Heavenly Een, Great Ice Prison. Hun Een pointed out with a pale face, and the holy power that was as vast as the heavens and earth surged. The icy aura of the odd crystal that covered millions of miles suddenly descended around Lin Shen, freezing all the vitality. Netherblood Mystic Dragon Claw. Long Disha's body flowed with violent and ferocious dragon blood aura, and he turned into a blood dragon that was hundreds of thousands of feet long and pounced forward. Bang! 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 Saber cutting through eternity, chi breaking rainbow. The huge attacks of both sides triggered an earth-shattering collision. This saber attack had the penetrative characteristic, and the aftershocks shook the fake gods to the point of vomiting blood. It wasn't over yet. Lin Shen's attack was like the most terrifying tribulation in the world. It was endless, and it came crashing down like a raging tide. A spiritual giant that was hundreds of thousands of feet tall surged with brilliant sunlight, and it punched out with a spiritual attack that could overturn heaven and earth. This spiritual attack also had the penetrative characteristic, and it also carried the divine power of the sun that could burn everything in the world. Its aura was boundless, and it burned the starry sky. 10,000 miles heavenly fate fall. Hidden sky, thunderhand. The heavenly fate umbrella blasted out 10,000 rays of gray light that seemed to cover the infinite secrets of the heavens, and it overflowed with a destructive aura. Together with the condensed black ball of lightning, it collided with the spiritual sun god fist that was smashing down. Bang! The attack surged, and a galaxy shattered. The fate gods were pushed back again. Lin Shun used a silent step, and the divine light of the sun around his body tore out a ray of light at an extremely fast speed. He threw a few punches with the most powerful 7 killing forces, which were all aimed at the body of Wang Yiquan's Kuan-Peng and the dragon body of the fate god of the Long family. The killing force was the most powerful of the 7 killing forces, and it contained the most powerful force that could definitely kill the enemy. Once the punch was thrown out, it would kill. Pucci. The killing force penetrated the bodies of the 2 fake gods, and they vomited blood crazily. Their originally heavily injured bodies were covered with new injuries. The sun god didn't only increase Lin Chen's cultivation level, but also his pure strength. Lin Chen didn't even know that he had hundreds of millions of dragon power under his control. He only knew that he was now unprecedentedly strong. He was so strong that his scalp was numb. Ha ha ha. Come on. Aren't you fake gods very arrogant? Where did your arrogance go? Damn it. How dare you invade the land of the 9 prefectures? I'll hammer you all to death. Lin Shun laughed arrogantly, and his aura covered the sky. He was like a god that had descended to the mortal world, and he was suppressing the 6 fake gods with his saber. The dean and the tower master were dumbfounded. He was too invincible. He was too powerful. What kind of scene was this? A young man of the War Emperor realm was fighting against 6 fake gods. How could they not feel their blood boiling? The current Lin Shun was in existence with a combination of 4 super powerful talents. Ultimate Moment plus Life and Death plus Strengthened God Slayer plus Sun God. This talent state could be said to be truly unprecedented in history. Perhaps Lin Chen wouldn't have the chance to achieve it in the future. This might be the only chance for a War Emperor Realm cultivator to defeat a Sage Realm cultivator. The Sun God only had 60 seconds, and Lin Shun had to use all his strongest trump cards as soon as possible. Chapter 771. The Dean and the Pagoda Master were far away from Lin Shun. They kept using space teleportation to support Lin Shun. Annihilation. Rumble. The rapidly rotating spiritual light beam emitted an aura that could annihilate everything and bombarded all the fake gods. With the help of the Sun God's talent, Lin Shun unleashed the strongest annihilation spiritual attack, which made their holy bodies dim and lose their vitality. The penetrative characteristic made them suffer a lot of pain and suffering. Pucci. The 6 of them vomited blood, and the injuries on their divine bodies became more and more serious. It was like their weakness at the beginning. Although the fake gods were strong, their divine bodies made them very weak. This was why they often hid behind the scenes to control the situation of the 9 prefectures. If they were bombarded by a large number of world-suppressing sacred tablets, their injuries would cause irreparable damage. If their defense was not broken, it would be fine. However, once their defense was broken, they would be defeated and their opponents would break through. This was the case for Lin Chen now. The injuries he inflicted on them were unimaginable. In just a few hundred rounds, the 6 fake gods were seriously injured. Lin Chen's situation wasn't any better. He was injured time and time again by the attacks of the fake gods. However, his absolute life and death had already burned him to this point. He didn't care about anything else and decided to fight with his life. Damn it, this kid wants to die with us. Lunatic, this is a lunatic. Damn it. Does he want to die with us for the sake of the 9 prefectures? Mo Qianji, quickly think of a way. The six fake gods were terrified. The sun god's talent was similar to the godslayer's talent. They were both talents that increased Lin Chen's spiritual energy, pure strength, and battle chi cultivation. As a result, Lin Chen was a perfect combination. His pure strength and spiritual energy could share the different attacks in the battle and break their defense again and again. They were even killed by Lin Chen and thought that Lin Chen wanted to die with them. We can't hold back anymore. Everyone go all out. As long as we don't die, we will eventually kill our way into the 9 prefectures and refine the energy of the Earth Core to recover. Now that the Firmament Pagoda Master has made his move, I'm afraid that the demons have already started to riot. This kid is already an arrow at the end of its flight. Use your strongest attack to kill him. Mo Tianji transmitted his voice telepathically. The 6 fake gods looked at each other and immediately made up their minds. They covered each other and swiftly executed their movement techniques. Lin Shun narrowed his eyes that flickered with the divine fire of the sun. He sensed an unprecedented wave of holy power rising from the bodies of the 6 fake deities. At this moment, the 6 pseudo-divinities no longer held back. They were going to use their strongest killing moves. One move to decide the victor. Lin Shen glanced at his sun god talent. Remaining 24 seconds. His holy body, which was filled with divine power, was about to run out of life. The absolute life and death talent had burned his life force to the last moment. Sword fury towards the heavens. Jian Chuanya let out a cold shout and took out his holy sword. A sword flew out, and the sword light twisted the wind and clouds, stirring up endless sword chi into a storm. The sword light in the center of the storm was the tip of the broken holy sword. Like a wild dragon, it pierced straight toward Lin Shun. Tens of thousands of sharp sword lights shot out. They shattered the stars and swept across the heavens, almost sealing off Lin Chen's escape route. This was a half-orange grade sword technique. When used by a fake god like Jian Chuanya, its power could pierce through the spiritual state continent. Blood Devour, sky-splitting dragon breath. Long Disha spat out a mouthful of thick blood essence. His dragon breath condensed into a vast dragon claw that slashed down from the vast starry sky. It furiously grabbed the void above Lin Chen's head with a domineering aura and looked down on the world. 10,000 piercing pear blossoms. Mo Tianji's blood essence sprinkled on the heavenly secrets umbrella. Countless tiny needle holes grew on the sides of the umbrella, and countless sharp needle-like lights shot out. They fluttered in the air like a storm of pear blossoms. They emitted extreme white light and spun at a terrifying speed, piercing through the void. Each of the needle-like lights could almost penetrate the defense of a saint. Thousands of needle-like lights surrounded Lin Shun from all directions as if hell had descended. Thunder shaking the 9 heavens. The fake god of the Lei family turned into the claws of a huge beast, and energy fluctuations similar to odd crystals erupted from his body. Under the rotating, starry sky, they turned into 2 silver thunderbolts that attacked from the front and back of Lin Shan, like dragons swimming in the sea. Exploding star sky. Wang Yiquan's Kuan Peng giant body condensed all of his bloodline power. The ultimate Kuan Peng could swallow stars and turn them into energy before releasing them. At this moment, he released all of his saint power in one breath and turned it into a beam of saint light that pierced through the stars and blasted toward Lin Shun. Hun Yin's blood and essence surged, and his saint power fluctuated like tides. The heavenly odd crystal in his body continued to vibrate. When it merged with his saint power, he struck out with his palm. Heavenly freezing palm. The horrifying chilly energy successfully condensed into a huge palm that covered tens of thousands of acres. When it slapped toward Lin Shun, many meteorite fragments were frozen into ice crystals and turned into powder quietly. The energy in that huge palm contained world-destroying energy. It was another half-orange grade combat technique that was infinitely close to an orange grade combat technique. Boom! The six fake gods unleashed their most powerful killer moves almost at the same time and swept toward Feng Qi with devastating force. Even the Academy Master and the Tower Master, who were standing far behind Lin Chun, changed their expressions in horror. This was the most powerful attack that these fake gods could unleash with their current strength. These fake gods weren't ordinary saints. They were criminals from the saint prison. Not to mention the rare top-tier purple-level techniques and top-tier ultimate items. They even had half-orange grade techniques with them. They were terrifyingly rich in resources. Their final counterattack before their deaths was enough to move countless Saint Realm experts. Oh no! If the spiritual state is hit by this attack, it will be torn into pieces and truly fall apart. Maybe even the heavenly state will be destroyed. Aren't we supposed to chase these guys away? How come this Lin Chin kid is forcing them to risk their lives? The Academy Master and the Tower Master were anxious. In the entire 9 states, no one except for the ancient era, when the 100 saints appeared together, could withstand this attack. At this moment of despair, Lin Chin's eyes glowed brilliantly as he stood proudly in the starry sky like the sun. Come on then, this is the last attack. With a heroic spirit, Lin Chun immediately mobilized all his 9 tribulations origin battle chi and activated the system to activate the talent, Sovereign's Descent. Talent combination, Sovereign's Descent, has been activated. Accumulated energy, 20.05 million points. The host's next attack will be enhanced. Host activated Heavenly Invisibility Rune to hide the trajectory and presence of the next attack. Consumed 29.5 million points of rune energy. Duration, 3 seconds. Cooldown, 40 seconds. The moment the system screen popped up, Lin Chun, who was surrounded by the sun god's light and the orange essence of life, smiled. The azure moonlight in his left hand flowed with a dazzling radiance as the mirror moon imperial god was being prepared. The 9 tribulations star condensed in his right palm. But he was the only one who could sense the destructive energy waves that were close to destroying the world. In the face of that shocking attack, Lin Chun brazenly charged forward. Chapter 772. The attacks of the 6 fake gods were the most powerful and domineering attacks that Lin Chun had ever seen. As far as the eye could see, the domain of the Saint Realm mental energy was filled with deadly attacks. If it weren't for his 4 innate talents, even 100,000 Lin Chun wouldn't be able to block even 1/10,000th of the attacks. If he were to face them head-on, even if he had the Sovereign's Descent, he might be able to break through the attacks of the fake gods and inflict some damage with the 2 offensive talismans. But he definitely wouldn't be able to kill them. This was definitely not the result that Lin Chin wanted. His absolute life and death had reached the end of its time limit. Either the fake gods would die, or Lin Chun would die. The attacks were extremely fast. Lin Chin's saint-level spiritual energy operated at an extremely fast speed. The moment he charged over, thousands of thoughts appeared in his mind, but he still hadn't made a move. Finally, when all the attacks were less than 100 miles away from Lin Chun, who was using the silent step, was covered in an immeasurable amount of sunlight. Beams of divine light soared into the sky one after another, making him look like a blazing sun. When Lin Chun collided with the attacks head-on, his body was covered in a dazzling purple light. The pagoda master and the dean's faces turned pale. Lin Chun was charging head-on without any defense. At this moment, the dragon claw made of blood, the rain storm like needles, the endless storm of sword chi, the cold and gloomy giant palm, the destructive beam of light flowing with the aura of the Koan Peng, and the 2 thunder dragon stigmata all struck Lin Chun. The 6 fake gods were overjoyed, but in the next moment, their expressions changed drastically. Super full counterattack, accompanied by the purple light. Lin Shun let out a furious roar that soared into the sky. All of his attacks were actually reflected back at him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The overwhelming barrage of attacks formed a fearsome momentum that struck back at the six fake divinities. The trajectory of the barrage of attacks was close to the original trajectory, and the speed of the barrage of attacks was incredibly fast. Stunned. All of the fake gods were stunned. No one had expected Lin Shun to do this. How'd he do it? How could there be such a heaven-defying skill in this world? To be able to reflect the attacks of 6 Saint Realm experts without any damage. Even Saint Realm experts who were a few levels higher than the 6 fake gods couldn't do it. Even when they were at their peak before they were sent to the Saint prison, they could only take the attacks head-on. It was impossible for them to reflect the attacks so perfectly. Could it be the legendary orange grade battle technique that could turn something rotten into something magical? Instantly, thousands of thoughts such as fear, shock, and astonishment appeared in their minds. But they couldn't care. They couldn't care less to be concerned as they retreated through space. So no. Mo Tianji's complexion was deathly pale. His heavenly secret teleportation had just been completed because of Lin Chen's sun god innate skill. He still had at least 6 hours before he could use it again. Ha ha ha! Fake! Exclamation point. To you. Chen's to the god, to be. T. S to T. Bang. T. S bang. T. Chi. The destructive storm that engulfed everything in its path converged from all directions and instantly collided with the space near the 6 fake deities. Then, the void trembled violently, and a mushroom cloud of energy abruptly erupted. Boom, boom, boom. Countless falling stars were shattered by the aftershocks. A tornado-shaped tornado was raging. The storm of sword power stirred up the sky and mixed with the gloomy, cold air. The lightning stigmata exploded crazily. The sharp needle-like light was like flying leaves and flowers. The dense dragon blood was disorderly and chaotic. Now and then, it was hit by the fierce aura of Koin Peng. Ah, my bloodline power, Lin Shun. You will die a horrible death. Where did this little bastard get such a trump card? My's heavenly odd crystal. Mournful wails echoed in the storm. The false gods, who were already seriously injured, were hit by their own full-strength attacks. When they launched the attack, they had already used up all their holy power. Now, they did not have any extra energy to defend themselves. Their saint bodies collapsed, and even if they didn't die, they were only half a step away from death. Even the Tower Master and the Dean were stupefied by this scene. Lin Chen's move was completely beyond their understanding. This wasn't an attack from a heavenly spirit realm Yuan venerate, but a full-strength attack from a Saint Realm warrior, and it was launched by the 6 fake gods. This was the one-time active talent of the purple level, super full counterattack. Lin Shun had used it to block many attacks from Battle Emperor Realm warriors in the Firmament Tower and perfectly reflected their attacks. According to the description of the talent in the system, super full counterattack was also applicable to Saint Realm warriors. It could perfectly reflect the attacks of Saint Realm warriors, which was a heaven-defying talent. Lin Shun had been waiting for the best opportunity to use it. The attacks of the 6 fake gods were enough to wipe out the entire spiritual state, but Lin Chen's eyes flashed with excitement and craziness. It wasn't over yet. At this point in the plan, Lin Shun had a 50% chance of winning. Go. The 9 Tribulation Star will decide life and death in the 9 states. In the time it takes for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Lin Shun suddenly tossed out the 9-colored star in his hand. It was dazzling, and the translucent divine light contained Lin Chen's 9 Tribulation origin power. It was breathtakingly beautiful and breathtaking. No, to be precise, it was the 9 Tribulation saintly source. There was a trace of the godly power of the sun in it, which increased the power of the 9 Tribulation star dramatically. The host activated level 5 recharge and level 5 penetration rune, consuming 21.9 million rune energy. The recharge rune increased the power by 5 times, and the 200 million rune energy of the Sovereign's Descent increased the attack power by more than 10 times. Ultimate moment, life and death, God Slayer, Sun God, and Sovereign's Descent. With the combination of the 5 talents, the 9 Tribulation Star this time was far more powerful than any other time. Lin Chen's eyes flashed with determination. The moment the 9 Tribulation Star left his hand, it quickly turned into a 9-colored star and fell into the monstrous storm. This was a light that only Lin Chen could see. The heavenly invisibility rune perfectly concealed its presence, and the fake gods who were under his attack didn't sense it at all. Just as Lin Chen's Sun God talent entered the 10-second countdown, a vast 9-colored light pillar that was millions of kilometers wide suddenly bloomed, connecting the heavens and the earth, sweeping through the vast starry sky and piercing through the entire galaxy. The brilliant divine light illuminated everything in the universe. What's this? No, it's not the attack of those fake gods. Block it. Horrified, the Dean and the Tower Master retreated to the sky above the spiritual state as fast as lightning. Then, they activated all their holy power and created 2 holy light barriers. Buzz, buzz. The moment the 2 holy light barriers, one green and one blue, were formed, the violent spiritual essence crashed toward them like a storm, creating energy ripples on the surface of the barriers. The 2 of them gritted their teeth and withstood it. If the aftermath of this energy rushed into the spiritual state, the entire spiritual state would be plunged into misery and suffering. Fortunately, Lin Chen had drawn the attention of the 9 Tribulation Star far enough away to stay close to the sun and fight with the 3 fake gods. Therefore, the energy waves from the 9 Tribulation Star didn't spread to the spiritual state. The blooming 9-colored light beam didn't create any earth-shattering noises. It only had the silent power of annihilation that could destroy everything in its path. He still has a killer move. How is it possible? How can our hegemony come to an end here? I hate it. I've traveled across the sacred boundary all my life, and I've had countless wives and killed countless enemies. However, I was defeated by this kid. While the 9-colored light beam spun, Lin Chen seemed to hear the screams of the fake gods. Chapter 773. Even if Lin Chen activated the 3-inch calamity, the destructive fluctuations of the 9-colored light pillar continued to spread. His body continued to die. The energy aftermath of the 9 Tribulations Star was too terrifying. Even he could not withstand it. Lin Chen held the azure moon tightly. There was only one step left. Lin Chen had not used the heavenly invisibility rune from the beginning. He had been hiding this trump card in the battle with the fake gods. There was no other reason. If the fake gods realized that they could not sense Lin Chen's attack, they would most likely choose to avoid the battle and flee. Because to their heavily injured bodies, an attack that they could not sense was the most fatal. Therefore, he had kept this rune until the end. He had kept it for his strongest attack, so that he could eliminate all the fake gods together. Whoosh! It was unknown which fake god had kept this trump card. He actually escaped from the 9-colored light pillar. Die! Lin Chen slashed horizontally, and the mirror moon imperial god, which had been accumulating power in the azure moon, slashed out. Whoosh! Under the starry sky illuminated by the 9-colored light pillar, it was as if a beam of moonlight flashed past in an instant. The figure was terrified and shouted, "No, no!" Rumble! The moonlight slashed down, and a gloomy and cold aura exploded. The sacred body was split into 2, and a large number of elemental light balls scattered. The orange light burning all over Lin Chen's body suddenly dissipated. The person who had escaped was actually Hunin. However, the moment he killed Hunin, Lin Chen's expression suddenly changed. Oh no! The restriction of the life and death talent had been removed, But the aftermath of the 9 tribulations, Star continued to destroy all of Lin Shen's vitality. System: activate superdimensional teleportation. Before Lin Shen could activate superdimensional teleportation, his whole body was destroyed and annihilated by the terrifying airwaves. The energy of the strengthened version of the God Slayer talent was rapidly drained. In the end, the 9-colored light pillars slowly disappeared, and all the fake gods died. Victory! In this battle, Lin Shen did his best to set up a trap, exhausting all of his resources, preparing and persevering time and time again. Finally, he killed the false divinity. However, the reason why they were able to kill the fake deity this time was all thanks to the super all-out counterattack at the last moment, as well as the fact that the fake deity himself was seriously injured. In the end, the 9 tribulations Star became the last straw that overwhelmed them. If it had been 6 third-level Saint Realm experts in perfect condition, perhaps the result would have been completely different. Although they had won the battle, Lin Shen had also paid a heavy price. His body broke into several pieces and floated in the starry sky. His life aura grew dimmer and dimmer. Damn it, Brother Chun, I'm going to be blown up by myself in the end. Lin Shen's heart was filled with bitterness. As his life force gradually faded into nothingness, a faint green light flashed between his eyebrows. The host is on the verge of death, activating passive talent, Destined One. Boom! The green light was like a pillar. When it bloomed from Lin Shen's body, it gathered around his body and nourished strands of tenacious life energy. It began to fuse with his body once more. This is Lin Shen's eyes bloomed with the light of new life and faith. Destined One. He did not expect that when he had spent nearly 10 million attribute points to fuse with the God Slayer fragment, he had unexpectedly obtained this talent that had become his life-saving trump card. The last time it was activated was when he first encountered the descendant of the fake deity, Ma Bai. This time, it had saved his life again. In less than 15 minutes, Lin Shen's body was reborn and completely restored. However, the enhanced version of the God Slayer and the Sun God's talent state had been removed. The current Lin Shen was a combat emperor. I've broken through. Lin Shen was surprised and happy at the same time. Being a heaven's destined warrior had given him a new lease of life. What stood after the breakthrough was the great bottleneck of the 8th heavenly realm. He was now an early 8th heavenly realm combat emperor. Now is not the time to be surprised. It's so hot. Without thinking too much, Lin Shen activated the 9 calamity body to defend himself. Although this space was still far away from the sun, it was already considered a very dangerous place for a combat emperor. First, I'll collect the spoils of war from the fake deities and then use the super-dimensional teleportation to return. This vast starry sky contains all kinds of spatial storms, heavenly flames, meteorites, ice demons, wind, and so on. I won't be able to escape if I encounter any of them. Lin Shen put away the severely damaged Azure Moon and activated the ultimate moment again. He activated the silent step at full speed and rushed towards the space where the fake deities had fallen. The starry sky was extremely dangerous. Even a 9th-level combat emperor would find it difficult to protect himself. Lin Shen was no exception. If he had not fought with the fake deities and cleared all obstacles in his way, Lin Shen would not have been able to use his movement skill to travel freely in the vast starry sky. Azure Dragon, keep. Lin Shen released his Dragon Emperor. The man and the dragon frantically cleaned up the battlefield. The Azure Dragon was responsible for collecting the attribute light balls while Lin Shen took away the spoils of war from the fake deities. This time, Lin Shen's heart was trembling when he cleaned up the battlefield. It was not because of the huge amount of attribute light balls, but because of the treasure chests and spoils of war obtained after killing the fake deities. The top-grade storage rings of the fake deities had exploded during the battle. Most of the items were destroyed, leaving behind only a few valuable treasures. First, there was a badly damaged holy sword. Although it was severely damaged, its holy aura still remained. It was Jian Chuanye's sword. There was a gray stone that contained boundless spatial energy. Even the Holy Force Jade Slip did not contain even 1% of it. There was also a piece of red satin. Lin Shun had also obtained a piece of red satin from the Dean. Even the Dean could not see through its secret. There was a scroll sealed with dark elemental energy that flowed as deep as the sea. There were also 2 fist-sized scarlet blood crystals. With the help of the Golden Eyes twin, Lin Shun could faintly see the silhouettes of 2 dragons dancing in the air. Inside the scarlet blood crystals, there was a draconic might that Lin Shun had never felt before. Every single one of these items was extremely extraordinary. Lin Shun had never seen them before. Damn, I've struck it rich this time. Lin Shun took away all the spoils of war. He did not have time to study them now. He would just take them first. Finally, there was a fingernail-sized crystal jade fragment suspended in the void. It flowed with a terrifying chill, as if thousands of icebergs were condensed within the fragment. Even Lin Chen did not dare to approach it easily. This is the heavenly odd crystal. Lin Chen was stunned. His heartbeat quickened, but then his heart sank. No, it's just a fragment of the odd crystal. Most of the energy was used by Hun Yin to block my attack. It seems that there is less than 1/20th of the energy left of the complete odd crystal. Sigh, what a pity. This heavenly odd crystal was a top treasure refined by Han Yin. It could only be found in the sacred boundary. Lin Shun had personally experienced the power of the odd crystal. It had once forced him into a desperate situation. However, Lin Shun was not too depressed. If it was a complete odd crystal, Lin Shun might not even be able to take it away. After all, the power of an odd crystal was too terrifying. An odd crystal could increase the combat power of a sacred boundary several times. This value was probably only comparable to half orange rank combat skills. After taking away the heavenly odd crystal fragment, Lin Shun looked at the void on the other side. There were 6 attribute treasure chests floating there. The things that he had just obtained were the remnants of the pseudo-god's heritage from a battle. The 6 treasure chests were the attribute treasure chests that Lin Shun had obtained from killing the pseudo-god. 6 attribute treasure chests, 2 orange crystal treasure chests, and the other 4 attribute treasure chests. This was the first time Lin Shun had seen them. The 4 attribute treasure chests flowed with colorful brilliance and exuded a supreme and noble aura. Lin Shun grabbed the 6 treasure chests. He had never been so excited and expectant before. These were the treasure chests that the pseudo-god dropped. What kind of things would he get? Chapter 774. Lin Shun felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His mouth was so wide open that he could stuff an egg into it. Damn, a permanent orange-grade talent fragment? The huge surprise stimulated Lin Chen's brain. He almost thought that his eyes were playing tricks on him. Orange tier talent. All of them were unprecedented levels. Every single one of them was Lin Chen's strongest trump card. Even in his dreams, Lin Shun wanted to have a permanent orange tier talent. That was his life-saving talisman. Even if it was a talent fragment, at least he had something to look forward to. I've been waiting day and night. You're finally here. Lin Shen's heart trembled as he opened the system and quickly browsed through the instant light split shadows talent. Permanent orange grade talent fragment. Instant light split shadows 1/2. Consume a specific talent point to divide all of the host attacks into 5 parts. The power will not decrease. It is applicable to all of the host's current characteristic runes. After reading this concise and comprehensive explanation, Lin Shen sucked in a breath of cold air. All attacks can be divided into 5 parts, and they are applicable to all characteristic runes. In other words, my illusion runes are also applicable. If I use 4 illusions to activate Mirror Moon Imperial God at the same time, it'll be 5 Mirror Moon Imperial God moves. If I activate this talent, it will be... Lin Shun was terrified as he thought about it. 5 people, 5 moves? If it was divided into 5 parts, it would be 25 moves. 25 moves of Mirror Moon Imperial God at the same time, and it would be buffed with penetration and charging runes. What kind of scene would that be? It was 2F asterisk King Abnormal, the invincible God Slayer, the stronger the Sun God, and the instant light split shadows that could turn the situation around. Orange grade talents. Each one was more abnormal than the last. This talent is 2F asterisk King Abnormal. Lin Chen gasped in amazement. He was so excited that he was sweet-talking. Orange grade talents were indeed powerful to the point of defying the heavens. If Lin Chen had this instant light split shadows talent when he was fighting against the fake god, he would not have needed to use super full counterattack as a backup. He could have just thrown out a 9 Calamity Star and activated instant light split shadows to split into 5 9 Calamity Stars of the same power. What kind of scene would that be? Fake God? Even the dregs would be blown away. However, not all talents were perfect. The Sun God had a short time limit, and the God Slayer had to have enough enemies and powerful strength to exert the power of the God Slayer. Furthermore, the God Slayer innate talent was not suitable for the Phantom Rune. When activated, only the main body would truly enter the God Slayer innate talent state. Rather than saying that instant light split shadows had a flaw, it would be better to say that it was Lin Chen's own limitations. Why was Lin Chen able to create 4 doppelgangers that were comparable to the original body? Why was the doppelgangers able to use all of Lin Chen's ultimate techniques, but the 9 Tribulation Stars could only be used once in a short period of time? The 9 Tribulations Star required the consumption of the 9 Tribulations Origins. Ultimate Restoration could replenish the depletion of battle chi and mental energy, but it could not replenish the depletion of the 9 Tribulations Origins. The Phantom Doppelganger possessed Lin Chen's 9 Tribulations battle chi, but the 9 Tribulations origin source was connected to the main body. If the Doppelganger used the 9 Tribulation Stars, it would only consume the 9 Tribulations origins of the main body. To put it simply, it was not that the instant light split shadows innate talent was not suitable for the 9 Tribulation Stars, but that the Phantom Rune was unable to increase the number of times the 9 Tribulation Stars could be used. Therefore, the 9 Tribulation Stars could only be used once in a short period of time in a battle. An unprecedented scene of dozens of 9 Tribulation Stars being used together would probably never happen. However, one doppelganger in a 5 was also extremely heaven-defying. The instant light split shadows and Sovereign's Descent would be a great killing weapon that could destroy heaven and earth. Although the 9 Tribulation Stars cannot be used by the Phantom Doppelganger, half-orange grade combat skills can be used. Lin Chen was not discouraged. He saw another limitless possibility of the instant light split shadows, and that was a top-grade combat skill. In fact, if he could master orange-grade combat skills in the future, he could also use the Phantom Doppelganger. Coupled with the instant light split shadows, Lin Chen believed that he would be able to reach new heights of handsomeness and strength by then. It seemed like he had thought of many things, but in fact, only a few breaths had passed. Lin Chen looked around and frowned slightly. There are a large number of meteorites nearby. We have to retreat quickly. He tied up the remaining sacred bodies of Wang Yiquang and Han Yin. The rest of the fake gods had already been destroyed in the previous explosion, but only the sacred bodies of these 2 people were preserved. Although their sacred bodies were broken and dim, and the remaining sacred power was less than 1,000th of their severely injured state, they were still a great supplement for Lin Chen's Dragon Emperor. The prerequisite was that he had to solve the problem of how to refine them. Without having the time to carefully look at how many attribute light balls the Dragon Emperor had obtained, a large number of meteorites were approaching. Lin Chen hurriedly activated the super-dimensional teleportation talent, moving the host to space number 1. The spacelight pillar broke, and Lin Chen disappeared. Lin Chen did not know that after he left, a red flame ignited in the void not far away. It was like a dancing fairy, beautiful and gorgeous. In the flame, a beautiful figure slowly walked out. Gazing at the shattered space, the beautiful woman clapped her hands and couldn't help but clap. This child is really a peerless sacred talent in the mortal world. Although he does not have a special bloodline, even I cannot see through his magical powers. Interesting. I did not expect to encounter such a situation in the mortal world. Her fiery red dress was beautiful beyond compare. The woman's temperament and appearance were the most beautiful. She turned around and stared in the direction Lin Chen left. Her eyebrows were like two burning flames, extremely mysterious. Come out. Suddenly, the woman's face was as cold as frost. Her delicate hand grabbed the void and pulled. A bloody figure with cracked skin was pulled out from the crack in the void. It was the fake god of the Mo clan, Mo Tianji. He did not die. With his skills as a divine fortune teller, the explosion of the 9 tribulations star did not kill him. How is this possible? Who are you? How can you see through my Tianji holy escape? Mo Tianji was injured all over. He stared at the beautiful woman in front of him in horror. The pressure from the ladder was extraordinary, not to mention that he was severely injured. Even if he was not in the holy prison, he might not be comparable to this woman in front of him. You're not qualified to know my name. Do you know this? The beautiful woman in red sneered. A red flame with flowing red light rose from her palm. Mo Tianji's pupils shrank. You are from the Divine Flame Palace? The woman in red smiled. At least you have some eyesight. Looking at your appearance, you must be a criminal from the holy prison. You are just a remnant of the evil. Die. As soon as she finished speaking, her jade-like hand slapped the top of Mo Tianji's head. The latter was bleeding from his 7 orifices. His life was slowly extinguished. His eyes were filled with despair. His cultivation was destroyed. No, killing you would only dirty my hands. As if sensing something, the woman in red suddenly looked in the direction of the Jiuzhou continent. The aura of the demon race. Chapter 775. On the spiritual state continent, Lin Chen's 9 tribulations star exploded, illuminating the sky with 9 colors like a blazing sun. Everyone stopped fighting. What is this? Is our great true God about to descend? The top masters of both sides stopped fighting, shocked and confused. While the Tower Master and the Dean were worried, the spacelight beam suddenly broke open and Lin Chen returned. After a moment of shock, the two were overjoyed. Lin Chen, you're fine. You little brat. You gave me quite a fright. Didn't you say you would drive them away? Why did you fight with your life on the line? The two heaved a sigh of relief, and the top masters of both sides were shocked. Prince Lin Chen won. Could it be that those false gods were killed? Impossible. How could our Lord true God fall at the hands of such a mortal? The battle emperors of the spiritual state continent cheered, but those of the fake gods were in disbelief. The ancestors of the 7 dragon clans stopped fighting, looking shocked. Others might not recognize them, but they couldn't. The 2 bodies in Lin Chen's hands were none other than the false god's true body. Even if the Tower Master of the Firmament Tower came, he couldn't kill them. Are you kidding me? We lost. Lin Chen, it's all because of him. Those guys are dead, but what about the dragon god Essence Jade? The higher-ups of the dragon clans were in chaos, and the morale of the 7 dragon clans dropped. Fire Oyan stared in Lin Chen's direction with tears in her eyes. She finally felt relieved. When the Dean and the Tower Master saw the 2 bodies in Lin Chen's hands, they were shocked. You killed them? Even though the explosion was horrifying, the 2 couldn't believe it. Those were the most vicious criminals in the Saint Prison. 6 of them were killed by Lin Chen. Yes, I killed them all. It's useless to expel them. They'll come back sooner or later. I wanted to kill them from the very beginning. Lin Chen's words caused the Tower Master and the Dean to shake their heads in amazement. Although they had already acknowledged Lin Chen's potential and strength, but they had still underestimated his ambition and lofty aspirations. They were only thinking about how to defend against the attacks of the false gods. But this little guy was actually thinking about how to eliminate 6 false gods. It was shocking. All of a sudden, terrifying energy fluctuations erupted from the bodies of the 2 fake gods. Lin Chun was shocked. Could it be that this thing can explode? The dean's eyes turned cold. Their saint veins are broken and incomplete. They're about to explode. After exchanging a glance with the Tower Master, the 2 of them nodded. They gathered holy light on their fingertips and waved it, cutting off the heads of the 2 fake god bodies. The 2 of them formed hand seals, and a series of golden sacred runes shot out from their fingertips, circling around the fake deity's body and forcibly sealing the shattered saint bloodline's energy. After being sealed, the fake god bodies looked ordinary like ordinary objects. Lin Chun put them into his storage ring easily and exclaimed at their miraculous methods. Ignoring the conversation, Lin Chun looked around the spiritual state. Countless pairs of eyes gathered their battle auras and gazed at him from thousands of miles away. Lin Chun waved his arms and yelled proudly, "The war is over. The spiritual state has won. Those of the false god alliance who surrender will have a chance to live. Those who resist will be killed." At this moment, Lin Chun's voice was like rolling thunder, gathering energy like a rainbow as it spread throughout the entire spiritual state. Wow! With Lin Chun personally announcing this news, and with the removal of the space barrier, it had an incomparable credibility. Endless cheers surged across the spiritual state. Hundreds of millions of people in the spiritual state wept tears of joy, and more places stopped fighting. The members of the Fake God Alliance were defeated like a landslide, and they retreated one after another. There's still time. We still have a chance. Let's go. Let's go. The other side has a saint. We have no chance. The 7 dragon clans fled with their tails between their legs, and the 3 dragon clans didn't stop them. After all, both sides had paid a heavy price and couldn't chase after them. Suddenly, the Tower Master's expression changed slightly. The emergency jade slip has been activated. I have to return to the Firmament Tower. He cupped his hands at Lin Chun and the Dean. Lin Chun cupped his hands. Senior, thank you for your righteous help. I, Lin Chun, will remember your kindness. The Tower Master smiled bitterly. Don't flatter me. Even without me, the result wouldn't have changed much with your strength and resources. Lin Chun shook his head. If the Tower Master hadn't blocked the aftermath of the 9 Tribulation Star, the Dean might not have been able to protect the spiritual state. The Tower Master's help had indirectly saved countless lives in the spiritual state. After the Tower Master left, Lin Chun wanted to go to the Firmament Tower to see what was going on. However, he and the Dean had to stay here to control the situation. As the Dean of the Heavenly Song Academy, I declare that the war is officially over. If anyone still wants to fight, come at me. The Dean released his Saint Aura and the Saint Artifact waves of the Heavenly Spirit Battle Tower, which spread across the spiritual state and suppressed the remaining members of the Fake God Alliance. In fact, the Dean was at the end of his rope. Although Lin Chun had shared some of the pressure in the battle with the fake gods, the Dean's physical condition was even worse than the fake gods. He could only stand here with his last breath. However, the Saint Aura was much more powerful than the Battle Emperors. The Dean's aura alone was enough to intimidate the other emperors, and no one dared to rebel. Everyone in the spiritual state cheered Lin Chun's name. From today on, the history of the spiritual state would usher in a new revolution that would rewrite the history of the 9 states that had been tampered with by the fake gods. However, there was one person who had overthrown the era ruled by the fake gods and inherited the will of the ancient 100 saints. He was the first person in all of history. There were no gods in the 9 states. With him, Lin Chun, there were no gods. Like the 9-colored light today, this name would illuminate the entire spiritual state and the land of the 9 states. However, things are not that simple. Just when everyone thought that the war was over, a sudden change occurred. Damn you, Lin Chun! How dare you rob the 9 palaces of the 10 sects of the bright state? Today, one of us will die. Little thief, Lin Shun, get out here. If I don't skin you alive today, I'll change my surname to Lin. Damn it. Lin Shun, if you have the guts, don't be a coward. You dare to rob us, but you don't dare to stand out. Shouts and curses covered in vigorous battle auras swept over like a huge wave, covering the sky and covering all directions of the spiritual state. Countless Yuan venerates and battle emperors were like densely packed dots, forming a 1,000-foot wave that attacked from all directions. They were the forces and masters of the 8 states. Some of these forces didn't submit to the fake gods, some were fence-sitters, and some didn't care about the situation in the 9 states. They were all robbed by Lin Shun. Lin Shun had plundered the accumulation of tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of years, forming a large army that was almost equivalent to the fake God Alliance. Many of them were hidden families of the 9 states. They didn't care about the situation in the 9 states on the surface and hadn't come out for a long time. Moreover, because they had been robbed, everyone's hearts were burning with anger. Their killing intent was like a tide, and their might was shocking. Their attacking momentum was even stronger than that of the fake God Alliance. They were equivalent to the representatives of all the masters of the 8 states. Almost the entire 9 states had come to suppress Lin Shun. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.